Greetings, salutations. My name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz. This is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named and somewhat charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program. And Derek, I've never looked better on camera. Here's the thing. I love doing a television broadcast during COVID because I've never looked better with a mask on.
I agree
Right?
with you. Yeah, but we should have maybe talked about this beforehand because now everybody's going to talk about how I'm lax about it and you're not. But I have my mask right here. But I thought we were going sans mask for the show.
I went with the thin mask. This mask you can you hear me?
So you're going to rock this the whole way?
Is it too muffled?
I mean, it's a little distracting.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm responsible.
I mean, we can distance enough, right?
Well,
and everybody else,
hey.
we have the velvet rope over here. So
I got
think
the
we're
vaccine
good.
yesterday, so I'm doing this for your protection.
I'm good. I don't ever need to be protected from you. You need to be protected from me. That's
if you think so.
That's what we have to.
There's a lot to talk about, and let's get right to topic number 8. By the way, let's get everybody up to speed here, Derek. You have a Patrick Ewing basketball card here because where are we right now?
We are at the Indy Card Exchange up on 96th Street. This has immense sentimental value to me because this isn't mine, but I have this, the Patrick Ewing from the 85-86 Fleer set, which also includes the Jordan rookie. I think the Akeem rookie is in there when he was still Akeem instead of Hakeem on his basketball cards. And Andy, the owner here, has actually a great story about this set and a collection that he came across fairly recently, in fact, earlier this month, that he's going to share with us coming up. I don't want to ruin the surprise. He's going to share with us coming up later on. But I love going down memory lane. I was a big card collector as a kid, and we talked about it on last week's show that I had an alias, Stefan Sports Cards. I sold them out of my parents' P.O. box in Connecticut and dealt in the old dial-up AOL internet days on the grandstand message boards. I got out of the hobby after high school, but it's neat to kind of come back down in here and go into memory lane, and I love the way that the hobby itself has really bounced back over the last several years or so.
Pistol Pete Maravich right here?
Yeah, that's
Rookie
cool.
Card.
And that was a cool set, too, those cards. I love the design of them. Yes, of course you've got the cards now that have, like, refractors and prisms and game-worn jerseys that are put in them, but I love the clean look of the vintage, like, 80s style, late 70s style cards.
There's a lot to talk about today, Derek, but topic A is one that perhaps hasn't even broken yet. And I know a lot of people are wanting to know whether or not Indiana University is going to have a new basketball coach, say, by Monday. I do believe, and I know, okay, if you had to guess, Derek, you would say, here, I'll join you here. I hope nobody gives me grief here, but I want people to be able to hear me. If you had to guess, would you say that I am saying yes or no, that Brad Stevens is going to be the next basketball coach in Indiana?
Well, I talked to you earlier today because for people at home that don't know, we're best friends. So we talk every day. And I talked to you earlier today, and you seem to sound very, I don't know what the word is, optimistic that was going to be the case, like better than a 50-50 shot?
Here's the thing I think that's interesting about this entire scenario. Number one, Brad Stevens has been with the Boston Celtics now for 8 years, and there's no doubt about the fact that he is a basketball savant. I mean, I don't think anybody questions that he is the number one coach in terms of if he was available. And right now he is not. He is the head basketball coach of the Boston Celtics. But if he was available, then he automatically, Derek, becomes the top free agent coach, if you will. And I've heard a lot of people say, why in the world would Brad Stevens leave the Boston Celtics to go to Indiana University? And it's a fair question. But a couple of things here that I think need to be kind of looked at and examined. Number one, if Brad Stevens were, for whatever reason, relieved of his duties with the Boston Celtics, and I have no idea where the relationship stands with Danny Ainge right now or what the thought is within the Celtics executive offices about Brad Stevens. But it has been somewhat of a rocky, disappointing year in Boston. Does that put him on the hot seat? I don't know. But for the sake of argument, if Brad Stevens was relieved of his duties as the coach of the Boston Celtics, if he were to stay in the NBA, how many jobs do you take going from Boston that are not a step down? In your mind.
The Lakers job?
I know people can say, well,
outside of that, it's tough. I mean, do people still – I feel like I have to remove myself from the conversation. Do people still care about the Knicks? Like, are the Knicks a big deal?
I think being the head coach of the Knicks is kind of cool because it's New York and it's the
Yeah,
Garden.
but they've had 28 head coaches in the last 4 years, right?
My point being, and I get it. I understand that somewhat of the NBA jobs are determined upon who the players are that are on the particular roster. The Clippers is a great job right now because you have – I get it. I get all that. But in terms of the prestige, the tradition, the legacy that comes with,
yeah.
wow, like that is.
Lakers are the only one. I mean, it's the
right.
Boston Celtics and the Lakers.
Correct.
And everybody else.
At any point in history, if you were to say to somebody, could you have ever believed when you were an 8th grader you'd be the head basketball coach of? Those are the two that jump out.
Yeah.
Now, in the college world, if Brad Stevens were to return to college, then Indiana, and I mean this is no disrespect to Butler, Indiana is considered a better job than Butler. Butler is considered a good job now because of Brad Stevens and what he was able to do there. So, in Brad Stevens' mind, if he were to return to the college game, he would be doing so at an upgrade from where he previously was when he was a college coach. The other thing is, I do
budget,
believe
facilities, and all of that
right,
as well.
tradition,
that
lore,
that. Sure.
everything. I truly believe, I don't know this, but I think it's factual to say, with the Boston Celtics, he's making $3.4 million a year. Unbelievable money, don't get me wrong. But really, the Boston Celtics are paying $3.4 million a year?
Well, that's why I don't understand where this narrative came from. Like, I heard a couple people say, I think Mike Wilbon said, well, he's going to make a ton more money in Boston. And I'm thinking
Totally
to myself,
untrue.
no, he's not.
He could potentially.
Where's that coming from?
As of right now, he could potentially double his salary by going to Indiana. Now, maybe if Boston wants him to stay, he could parlay this into more money with the Celtics, perhaps. But as of right now, the money that allegedly is being offered by Indiana or proposed, and again, I want to make very clear, I don't know that anybody has talked to Scott Dolson from a media standpoint where Scott Dolson has said, we offered Brad Stevens $7 million a year. These are projections. But if those numbers, and I think that's accurate, 6 to 7, somewhere in there. Now, I've talked to a number of people from my time in Indiana that, open disclaimer, don't work inside the athletic department, but certainly are close to it and have been a part of that basketball program over the course of years, who do believe he is in play. And they do believe that it's a very short list with John Beilein, Brad Stevens, Chris Beard, in no particular order, and that Brad Stevens has been given, maybe not directly, but people of Brad Stevens, intermediaries, he has been given, I don't know about an official offer, but an invitation to begin that discussion.
Well, he knows
with the timetable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need any sources to know that if Brad Stevens wants to become the next head coach at Indiana
Correct.
University, Brad Stevens absolutely
but
would
I
be
do
the next
think,
head coach.
But
at
I
IU.
do think, Derek, that they have said, however, we want to have a timeline here.
Yeah,
Part of that,
sure.
too, is because if Chris Beard is in Indianapolis right now, or if, I mean, John Beilein's obviously not, but if there are coaches that they'd like to talk to, Musselman, maybe, I don't know about that, but that's kind of I'm just throwing pie in the sky on that one. But if there are coaches they want to talk to, they're in Indianapolis. So, maybe you want to massage the timetable. It's not like you can't just hop on a plane and go anywhere if you need to. But I do believe right now, I don't know that I would say it's 50-50 because there are variables that come with, a lot of people have said, well, what's he going to do? Just like leave Boston in the middle of the year? It's entirely possible there could be a mutual agreement where he parts ways at the end of the season for the Celtics. That would be unprecedented and unusual, I would think. But I think it's in play. I do.
Oh, I think it's in play. I don't think there's any question about that. Whether people want to laugh it off or not, that's their choice. But the fact that it hasn't been completely shot down yet means that it's still in play.
Here's another thing. When Brad Stevens was asked on a radio show, Derek, you and I have done how many radio shows?
Oh, I don't know. In the thousands.
Okay.
Yes.
How many live interviews have we done?
Also probably in the thousands or the high hundreds.
Of those live interviews, how many times have we done them with somebody who is the epicenter of news with a burning question about them? 50, 75, 100?
Yeah, I was going to say several dozen probably.
How many times when we asked a direct question that was one that everyone was wanting to know the answer to, which we have done, did the person come out and say on our show, yes, I'm going to give you the definitive answer of the question that you want to know the answer to?
No. They either sidestepped it or they denied it, and then afterwards.
When Brad Stevens was
the
asked on a Boston radio show, and no disrespect to somebody who's doing a Boston radio show, I mean, I don't mean anything about that individual at all. When Brad Stevens was asked, and kudos to the guy for asking, are you leaving the Celtics to go become the head basketball coach at Indiana? And he said, no, I'm not. He almost paused. No, I'm not going to do that, or something along those lines. That's exactly what you would expect him to say. There is 0% of that you take as rock solid, definitive answer from Brad Stevens. Later that night, he's doing a Zoom call in anticipation of the Celtics game and is asked about it and goes into a soliloquy about what Indiana University basketball meant to him and introducing him to his love of game of basketball as a kid.
Odd. Yeah.
Instead of saying, listen, guys, I grew up in Indiana. I was a huge Indiana fan, but my heart right now and everything is dedicated to the Boston Celtics. And while I'm very flattered, I am here to say that I am not a candidate for the Indiana University basketball position. He did not say that.
It's weird.
You see how easy that was for me to say?
It didn't feel like he was prepared to answer that question. I don't know. Like there were a lot of ums and uhs in there, and he kind of just rambled on about Indiana, and it struck me as odd because Brad is a really smart guy, and he knew that he was going to have to tackle that, and it's weird that he chose to handle it that way. Look, for all the discussion, is Indiana a better job than the Boston Celtics job? No, of course it's not a better job than the Boston Celtics job.
But it might pay better.
But it's a life decision. You know what I mean? Like, I think as fans, and sometimes we fall victim to this as media, we want to rank everything. Oh, well, this is better than this. This guy's better than that guy. This job's better than that guy. When your family and kids are involved, people in real life sometimes take pay cuts, or they take raises, or they move across the country, or you make all kinds of decisions based on all kinds of different things, not just the prestige of whatever it is that you're going to do next.
Let me ask this to people who are watching this, both of you. Okay.
We have. I just checked, and we're in the 10K range.
Okay.
Right now. Yep.
Sure.
Live views adding up on all platforms.
If you are living in Indiana, I want you to think back to a month ago in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I think everybody knows I love Indianapolis as much as anybody. Okay. If you think back to a month ago in Indianapolis, it was 15 degrees outside. We got 9 inches of snow one day?
Yeah, it was brutal.
It's gray. We hadn't seen the sun in like 2 months. Look how pale I am and pasty. The entire city was covered in, that is correct, ice, as in the
there you go.
Indianapolis ice, available at the shop, 920 Broad Ripple Avenue, or
I think our graphic is blocking it, but it's there.
Okay. Nonetheless, most of you, not all, most of you probably have the option through your job if you wanted to transfer and try to move to Gulf Shores, or Florida, or whatever it might be. Or at some point in your life, you had that option when you were a younger person. Why did you choose to keep living in Indiana? Why? Because to a lot of people, life is about more than just the sun and whatever else. Eventually, you get to a point where you live somewhere because that's where life is familiar to you. That's where life is comfortable to you, and that's where the people who you love and who love you are. I have no idea if that's the definitive reason why Brad Stevens would come back to Indiana, but I don't think you can rule it out. I just don't. No, especially if you're going to take a pay grade, an upgrade to do it.
And I don't want people to get this twisted, like, oh, hey, here's the 2 IU grads that are talking about Stevens. Well, 2 people that attended IU that are talking about Stevens going to IU. But unlike 4 years ago, it felt like the Celtics were going like this. You know what I mean? And the timing when that job opened up, and of course, every time this job is opened up, people have mentioned Brad Stevens, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel like it made sense for Stevens to leave a team that was ascending to take the Indiana job. So I kind of laughed it off. This time around, it just feels like I have no idea if he's going to take this job, Jake. He might deny it over the weekend and Indiana hires somebody else. I don't think it's better than a 50-50 shot or anything like that, but it just feels like at least there's a shot. And for a basketball program that has given little to no hope over the last 2 decades, it feels nice to actually hope, even if it's blind delusion. It feels nice to hope that something positive happens for this basketball program because, look, I know that we're snarky about IU, and I know that I trash IU. I'm a grad and a former fan, and it has been, I'm not going to lie, it has been kind of fun to needle them every once in a while. Candy Stripe Guy and the whole deal, and Needle Crean and Needle Archie, who was completely in over his head, right? But now these fans deserve better. The fan base, I want Indiana to be relevant and good again because it's just not the same. It's not the same watching Purdue kick them around all the time. That's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I want that to come back, even if it's not Kansas, Kentucky, Duke level back. If Indiana could get back on Wisconsin's level, that would be great. I would happily accept that and be cool with that moving forward for the program.
By the way, I put the mask back on because, what is it? Dr. Fauci says 15 minutes, Derek. So I'm at 14:30. I put it back on, and then I'll take it. I'll intermit. Smart of me, isn't it?
I'm ready to get this shot so I can stop hearing about you talk about it.
Here's the thing. I've gotten the shot. I'm impermeable built to you.
You're
right? If Brad Stevens were to go to Indiana, does that automatically assume or mean that Indiana becomes a Final Four contender year in and year out?
I mean, what do you think?
I think he's a very good coach, but I think he's also been away from
track
college
record,
for 10 years.
Yeah, the track record is there, though. I mean, this wasn't just a very good coach. Like, what he did at Butler was incredible. It was something that people will talk about 50 years from now. It was unbelievable what they did, not only 1 year, but 2 years. And they very nearly were a national champion. They were very nearly a national champion both of those years. But I think the 2010 team, certainly in retrospect, we realized, hey, wait a minute, that truly was an elite team. Like the 2011 team had to have a bunch of things go right, and their region kind of exploded, and Pitt was Pitt. And I'm not going to shoot down that run. That was a great run, too. But that 2010 team legitimately was one of the 4 or 5 best teams in America, probably, in retrospect.
Did you see that what's happening? Todd is here?
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, what's happening? Yeah. Todd is here, and he's already ordering his Carson Wentz MVP jersey.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Here, right?
Well, we've got that to get to. We're not just going to spend 2 hours on Brad Stevens, guys, I promise.
But it's clearly, and look, all due respect to Purdue fans who's playing in the NCAA tournament. I mean, so
their season actually is still going.
Look, I get it, but it is a big story.
For sure.
It is a big story.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe something – it doesn't look like – a couple hours ago it felt like maybe something was going to happen today.
I don't think that's going to happen.
It doesn't look like something's going to happen today.
I don't think it's
Zach Osman of the Indy Star just had a report that said they don't expect anything to happen today or over the weekend.
Did you notice that 3 different people said, I got a text from a source inside the athletic department, and then it said the exact same thing? And I'm like, are they all on a mass text? How did we get on that mass text?
I don't know. I've just been blindly retweeting every Brad Stevens to Indiana report, even from people that I've never even heard of, just because
Go with my line.
I want to hope.
Go with my line.
I want to hope.
Here's my line. Very simple. I want this to be documented. Today's what? March what?
March 19th.
March 19th. I want this documented on March 19th, okay, on the Brad Stevens reporting. Here it is. I texted a source within the Indiana University Athletic Department and said, what are you hearing regarding the rumors about the Indiana coaching position? And they replied, it is definitively BS.
Okay.
I am safe either way, brother.
I guess so.
How about that?
I'm just going to retweet everything blindly, and if Stevens ends up taking the IU job, I'm going to say, see, I told you. Whole deal.
If Stevens takes the job, I told you it's definitively BS. If Stevens does not, I told you it's definitively BS.
Yeah. This does kind of remind me, though, of when we were on the radio together, not only getting to do a live show in front of Todd, and I see Eric's back there and all of that, but also I had to do this a lot because there were many overtures made to me to do something solo or to go to a competitor. Hey, what's your contract situation right now? How married are you to Query Schultz? Do you want it to be the Derek Schultz show? And a lot of times, publicly I had to say one thing, whereas privately I was having different conversations. But ultimately, I tried to remain loyal to the show and the brand that I helped build.
You've been a free agent, as have I, for 15 months.
Mm-hmm. Well,
if it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I don't know if you know, Jake, I'm contributing to the Indianapolis Monthly live NCAA Tournament blog. Okay. We have this, of course, cooking on ISC Sports Network that basically I set up on my own with my friend Greg Rakestraw,
right,
who's a former mentor of mine and now a coworker.
But if you set it up on your own, why didn't you do the show on your own?
I'm with the Indianapolis Star and Greg Doyle, the lead columnist, one of the most powerful voices in this town. As a co-host, a respected co-host, people tune into that show to hear just as much what I have to say as Greg has to say.
So far,
I've actually got a lot going on. What are you like? You're like a turn guy for Indy Lights or something?
The Indianapolis Monthly deal you have? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You're the only blogger?
No, there were several other. We don't like the term bloggers. Contributor is the word that I use.
So just out of curiosity, with all of the solo ventures that were, thrown out to you, you have yet to mention a solo venture that you did.
Well, that wouldn't be appropriate to name a venture that I had in 2015 to do something national or something like, you know what I mean? Like at this point, who cares? It's 2021. It's water under the bridge. I said no. I probably made a mistake, but that's
what the venture was. Stefan's Cards, right? Yeah. Isn't that what your venture offer was? What all do we have to get to in the show today?
We got a ton to get to still. Colts free agency. It's been all kind of quiet on the Western Front, but Jake, our favorite person to quote on this show and talk about what he had to say in a press conference is Jim Irsay.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll discuss that from yesterday. The Pacers still stink. Nothing's really changed there, so we'll talk about how much they stink and if they'll stop stinking. Scott Agnes is going to join us to talk about that at the Fieldhouse Files.
If they stink and when they'll stop stinking?
Yeah.
I can't smell anything.
We got plenty of
Not because I have the
tournament
COVID,
stuff
because
to
I have
get
the mask.
Andy, the owner here at Indy Card Exchange, is going to hop on and tell that cool story, not only about this Fleer set, but
I brought my cards.
about his impressive collection overall here, because it really is. It's incredible what they've put together in this shop. And hopefully we'll get to shake some hands and kiss some babies. Well, I guess we can't do that with the social distancing, but, the saying is that with the listeners and viewers that come out here to Indy
We're in the middle of a pandemic, and Derek's coming up with ways where we can swap germs with people of all ages.
I won't kiss anything. I'll sign anything that you have here. No personalized greetings, but I won't kiss anything. Happily married.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll get to all of that, right? Coming up.
Query Schultz live on Comcast Xfinity 81, YouTube, all the socials continues from Indy Card Exchange, 96 Street.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back. It's Query Schultz, live from Indy Card Exchange. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Derek Schultz. Jake Query here as well on this sunny Friday afternoon. And you've got your you brought your binder, didn't you?
I did. These are from when I was 12. I collected a ton of cards.
Probably not worth any, especially those scores. That was kind of a low-end brand.
What are you, Darren Ravel?
I don't think Luis Polonia cards are worth anything either. But we have a guy that would know
that. What
that.
about a Joe Morgan rookie?
Who's sitting right here next to me. It's Andy Albert. He is the owner of Indy Card Exchange. And thanks so much, Andy. First off, it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks
you
so
as well.
much for having us out here to your awesome shop. Now, this is larger than your previous shop was in Castleton, and we've needed the space because I'm super impressed. I mean, obviously, we have a loyal following of dedicated listeners, but I've been really impressed with just the foot traffic in here in the hour and a half or so that I've been in.
Let's just say if we were at the old shop doing this, we wouldn't even have any patrons at all. It was super tight. I don't know if you guys, with the Andy and Bruno show, you've seen the background of the old show and everything. The old shop, it was packed tight in there. So it is really nice to have a lot of space. Customer friendly, good layout. I wanted this thing for a long time, so it's nice to see it actually happen.
Andy, I once traded a Ricky Henderson rookie at the Holiday Inn on Shadeland in about 1988. Bob Gibson was one of my favorite players when I was a kid.
All right.
And this might actually be a knockoff. I don't know.
Let's check it out.
Some kid might have fleeced me, but it's not a fleece.
Here we go. The Is It Authentic segment of the Query and Schultz show.
What do you think? I'd like to know the value of my Bob Gibson. I think that's his second or third year.
It is his second year, 1960 tops, and it is authentic.
Okay.
So that wasn't a bad trade.
So how much you giving me for that bad boy?
Well, if you didn't have creases in it, we'd have a little bit more of a fair offer coming. But this is probably about a $30 card, Jake.
That's not bad.
No,
that's
not
What's
bad
the Ricky Henderson rookie going for
about
these days?
$30, $40.
Yeah, looks like I fleeced that kid from Warren Central now, didn't I?
That's worth more than the Luis Polonia. I can say
that's right.
that.
Well, I had backups on the. What about? I think I had a Cal Ripken rookie. Isn't that like a Future Stars or something card?
That would have been him with another player on there, 82 tops. You got that one sitting in there
I
too?
got that somewhere. Yeah, I'll get that to you.
How did you, Andy, get into the business? Were you a collector as a kid, like most of us were, and then were that passionate about it and just decided one day to open up a shop?
Yes, I bought this shop actually from the original owner that started it in the early '90s. So I bought it back in 2012.
Did you trade him for a Ricky Henderson rookie?
No, 1960 Bob Gibson.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
I my grandmother bought me a box of Fleer cards in 1988 for Christmas. I was 10 years old and literally opened it up and fell in love with sports cards. So obviously Michael Jordan, being up from northern Indiana, I grew up just south of South Bend.
Okay.
And love the Bulls. Pulled the Jordan cards out of there. Still have those 2 cards in my possession to this day.
What do we got on this
years
one?
ago?
Bob Bonner's rookie card.
Bob Bonner.
What do you think?
That's like the Nolan Ryan rookie. Who else is with Nolan Ryan, Jake, since you're a card guy?
You know,
I
don't know the answer
2
to that.
players. Starts with a J.
This.
He was a good pitcher for a couple of years. He was actually a Topps All-Star rookie.
Joe Negro.
No.
Hit me with it.
Jerry Kuzman.
Yeah,
I should know that.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan, Jerry Kuzman. So, yeah, the Cal Ripken card, this is considered his rookie card, but it's not his true high-end rookie card. 1982 had a Topps set and a Topps traded set. You remember that?
Yep.
Topps traded came in that tiny little box. It was a brown box. The 1982 Topps traded Cal Ripken is a monster. The last PSA 10s have sold for like $15,000 to $20,000.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. So grading is a massive part of the industry now too.
We're next to Culver's. Can I go get myself a milkshake with that card?
Yes.
How many? How many milkshakes?
Well, what size are we getting?
Well, I want the $4. If I want the $4 shake, how many shakes am I getting out of that card?
We're getting 5 shakes for this card.
$20 for that card?
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell? Just keep
the
it.
card. Andy, the card that got me into the business is the one that a lot of people. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you. I was born in '83, but
right.
I don't know if I've ever coveted anything in my life to this day as much as I coveted that 1989 #1 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie because it was just so beautiful with the little hologram on the back.
For sure.
And it was like nothing else. No offense to these old Topps and Fleer sets, but this was the old style of card where it's just it's not shiny. It's just a piece of cardboard. And then Upper Deck came out and it was just
no doubt.
Now,
changed the whole perspective.
Can I keep this local?
That's actually a good card, Jake.
There
that
you go.
card.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
don't just toss
Derek,
it.
easy there. That's buying us. That's
Yeah,
buying us
so-
dinner at Culver's, Derek. So be easy on that
That'll
bad
buy you
boy.
a few milkshakes. So this card has taken off like wildfire.
This is a Larry Bird card, by the way,
This
right?
one used to be about a $3 card. So this is Larry Bird's, I don't know if I'm on camera or not, Larry Bird's second year Topps card, 1981-82. This has gained popularity because it's his first card of an individual picture. His rookie card has him, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Dr. J. That's the true rookie card. But this one, for some reason, collectors are going bonkers for. In this condition, it's like a $200 or $300 card.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, sharp corners.
Last,
actually looks
last
good
one
centering.
because
Centering's good. Yeah.
The last one, I know it's shocking that I've turned this all into things that I own, but I always liked this card. I think it's worthless. But when I was a kid, I played on the Sixers, and I was number 2 when Moses Malone was with the Sixers and was number 2. And this is Moses. Now, it does have a crease, so I want you to pretend there's no crease.
Okay.
There you go. Derek, hand me those back.
I'll take my grading blinders off because I have to do that 8 hours a day.
Pass me back my $360 here, buddy.
1979 Moses Malone.
Your thoughts?
Good card, not a rookie. His rookie was from, I think, 75 or 76, if I'm not mistaken. And probably got about a 25% of a milkshake with this one.
A buck?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Tell us the Fleer story.
That pays the shipment on this Larry Bird card I'm sending to a guy for $300.
That's right.
I have the Ewing rookie, which is sentimental to me. I grew up in Connecticut and was a huge Knicks fan.
Oh, yeah.
And he was my favorite. I had all his posters on my wall, and I remember going to a card show in Norwalk and getting this with my dad when I was about 10 years old. And this set was always such a huge set because it had the Jordan rookie in it as well. I think Olajuwon maybe was one of them. Yeah, was Barkley's in there too?
Barkley, yeah. You got Chris Mullen, Dominique. It's a ton of big names in there.
But you actually stumbled upon. This is just an incredible story from
pretty cool.
Pretty recently, a couple of weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. Woman had reached out to us and said she had acquired stuff from her mom's estate, and she had to clear the house out because the mom had passed away recently. In one of the bedrooms was her brother's bedroom, and her brother, when they were kids, had actually unfortunately passed away at age 17. Opened up a bunch of boxes of cards, basketball, baseball stuff, had a big old Rubbermaid tub that she brought in. In the box was this exact box right here, 86 Fleer basketball, which to this day and age, I think it's probably the second most iconic set behind the 1952 Topps set with the Mickey Mantle rookie card in it. It had been completely opened, and all the contents of the cards had been put right back inside this box. So to put things in perspective, today's day and age, this box sealed with 36 packs in it sells for $200,000 now, unopened. The unopened products are going nuts. But being opened, and being able to look through there and then find 3 Michael Jordan rookies.
Wow.
Was awesome. Like it's giving me chills just talking about it, right? You just don't get to see that kind of stuff. So we were sitting right over here in the corner, and we had a great conversation. Here's what you've got. Here's the condition it's in. She wanted to sell it. You knew her intentions were to sell it. She was talking about grading, things like that. Long story short, we ended up making her a very fair offer price for everything, and she walked away happy. She actually lives like 2 minutes away. It was crazy that she just saw the sign out in the front. She's like, I think I've got some sports cards. I should bring them in. I mean, it was like super cool,
How much of that stuff can grade out as like, 8s, 9s?
Yeah.
I know it's probably pretty rare to find a 10, even if something sat in a box, but the fact that it's 35 plus years old.
So if they were 10s or 9s or even 8s, I probably would have said, let's just grade these for you, get the results, and then we'll decide what the values are. They're not going to be 8s, 9s, and 10s. You deal with centering issues, as Jake was talking about. You got corner issues. The 86 Fleer always has edge chipping because the red, white, and blue border is really colorful, but it causes issues that you can see with the naked eye. So I actually brought some good examples for you guys. These are a few milkshakes worth right here for Jake to check out. These are 3 different Michael Jordan rookies that I already had in my possession that are already graded by PSA. Okay, here we go. So, it's a 5, a 6, and a 7. These were the condition of the Jordan rookies that were in this box that I bought from the woman. I'm hoping that I get like a 5 and a couple 7s based on what I'm sending in.
Sure.
You always send Michael Jordan rookies in to get graded because everybody wants the peace of mind of what they're buying and making sure it's in the condition that it should be. Because the difference between a 6 and an 8 is $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of subjectivity. So you guys can check those out. See a 5, 6, and a 7.
So
Jake's worried about his cards.
That's right. Well, but I know there are such things as really good cards that become average cards because they're not in good condition.
Correct.
And I think this is an example of that. But you tell me, I think this is a rookie, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
75 tops,
Yeah,
right?
don't drop that one. That's like your Larry Bird second-year card right there.
Really?
75 tops, George Brett rookie right here. Another one that Jake should be pretty proud of. With the condition it's in.
It's got a slight bend on the bottom corner, right?
Bottom left corner, top right corner. It's off-centered left to right. I'm looking at it. I should be showing everybody this one. But off-centered left to right, I'm probably going to grade a 4. But still probably $200.
So what would that be if it was in mint condition?
A 9, I would say probably 8 to 10 grand.
Really?
Huge.
Okay. Well, let's just pretend it's a 9.
George Brett's rookie card.
You got to think it's almost 50 years old.
It's not that.
Oh, my. I mean, what the hell?
The market has changed into a massive investor market, too. And all these high-grade iconic rookies that are Hall of Famers in 9s and 10s are so finite, the demand is far outweighing the supply.
What about a Tony Gwynn rookie?
A condition, again. Like, you could get one for $20. I'd probably have them down here on the shelf. Mint condition, gem mint condition, $300 to $700.
He lived right here in Fishers. You know that, right?
He did?
Tony Gwynn, yeah.
I did
It was
not
his
know
off-season home.
His off-season home
Because he knew he wouldn't get recognized.
Interesting.
So he'd go to Pacers.
Okay,
he'd
so
go
you
to
said
Pacers
these
games
Jordan
and all that.
cards, Andy, are in 3 different conditions?
Yes. So see, there's a 5, a 6, and a 7.
Okay, I do see that.
So a 5 is selling currently right around $5,000-6,000 bucks.
Okay.
A 6 is selling around $8,000-9,000, and a 7 sells for $10,000 to $12,000 bucks.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
That's actually, honestly, when I was – because I dealt online in the old AOL card days. I don't know if you ever heard of the grandstand message boards on AOL, but I used to go on there, and I had a P.O. box, and we'd buy and sell money orders and do all that, but low-end stuff. But when I was in high school, I was bussing tables. I didn't have a lot, and then people started coming in and saying, hey, PSA, I got this graded.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, I used to want a Tony Gwynn rookie card for $20, and suddenly it's $300. I'm thinking, I'll have to bust tables for 6 months to get this. But you know what I mean? And that's what kind of actually got me out of the business when I was that age.
Business.
Well, I mean, out of collecting when I
Sure.
was that age. Not to make it sound like I was
Now-
in the business.
No, it's true. I mean, the hobby is now – there's a huge divide. There's kid-friendly stuff that's more and more difficult to obtain because we try to welcome as many kids. I was that kid, from age 10 to 18. There's a huge divide. We're trying to get more kids involved, but man, the money that's coming in from the high-end investors, and I mean Wall Street themselves, there's hedge funds built for sports cards. There's fractional ownership situations where you can own a piece of an autographed Michael Jordan card, and you buy shares to have that piece. I mean, it is insane right now what we see in this market. It's fun.
We know rookie cards are valuable, right? And for those that are not diehard card fans, that simply means the first card that is distributed or presented for a player.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
What about, and I hate to say it this way, if a player has an untimely or unexpected, I mean, it's always untimely, I guess, into the career or a passing, a la Roberto Clemente.
Correct.
What about the final card of a player?
Those haven't taken off the way you'd think they would. I mean, Roberto died.
Maybe I'm just an extremely macabre individual.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Roberto Clemente, for example. I mean, he was towards the end of his career, I guess, but there has to be a year that was the final card that was presented for him.
His final card was 1973 tops. That was his actual final card produced. And he had passed away, I think, at the end of 72, if I'm not mistaken.
I would imagine probably everybody kept them, though, right?
Correct, yeah.
And so, therefore, the value goes down.
Definitely. I mean, Kobe Bryant's a good example. Kobe's stuff has just taken off, too, because of his untimely death, too.
I'm so sad that you said that.
Yeah.
96 was one of the years I really got into it, and I really got into the Topps Chrome set, which really took off. Because I think it was wasn't it only available at KB Toys or something? There was
Sam's Club.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a short produced, and all those rookies took off. I remember a summer where you had to pay $20 to get a Priest Lauderdale or something like that. But I got really into Stephon Marbury because he was a New York legend, and I followed him all through high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's going to have a better career. So I got all of Marbury's stuff from that year, and of course the Kobe stuff. Not that the Marbury stuff is worthless per se, but
there's a lot of Chinese fans that love Steph Marbury because he played in China and everything. Yeah.
Is that one of those iconic sets still to this day? The 96, 97 Chrome?
Probably in the top 5 in basketball. It might be number 2 behind the 86 Fleer set because of the Kobe rookie. I mean, because you also have Iverson, Ray Allen, Jermaine O'Neal's in there. Steve Nash.
It was a great class.
Yeah. It was an awesome class.
So when I was a kid and was really into baseball card collecting, the 2 holy grails, which were not in the market for a kid, were Honus Wagner and then the Mickey Mantle rookie.
Correct.
Is that still are those 2 still the?
For baseball, yes.
Yeah.
100%. Honus Wagner's kind of the untouchable, right? It's like the
there's
big
9 of them
Mona Lisa of art, you know what I mean? But the Mantle is obtainable. I finally was able to buy mine for the first time 2 years ago, and I still have it to this day. It's a PSA 1. I'm just happy to have one.
Sure.
You know? I don't care what grade it's in. Those are those holy grails that you build as a bedrock foundation of your collections.
When I was a kid and got report cards, Andy, I would often say, don't worry about the grade. Don't pay attention to the grade, right? That's what I used to have to
That's
What's the most expensive thing in your collection that you own, and what would be, I guess maybe you just answer it, the most sentimental thing to you that you own in your personal collection?
Yeah, it's a big, big difference when it comes to value. The most sentimental is those 2 Jordan cards I pulled out of that box from 1988 Fleer. I still have them. They're in my safe at home. They're not even worth more than $50 a piece, but I just
started the whole thing.
It started the whole thing. And now I've got this fun business, and it's a blast. My most expensive, it's tough. I have a really nice Tom Brady autograph rookie from 2000. That thing has taken off too lately. When he won his 7th championship, I think it jumped another 15 to 20 grand. It's probably worth close to 100 grand.
I think we know who you were rooting for in the Super Bowl, right?
I might have some investments in Patrick Mahomes too, so it's kind of a win-win for me, I guess. But
what would that have been? Was that autographics or what?
It was 2000 Contenders rookie ticket auto. To put that in perspective, a championship ticket, which is the parallel version. I know I'm getting kind of complicated, but the parallel version numbered to 100 that was graded a perfect 10 just sold at auction for $1.6 million.
I got an entire sleeve here of former North Central High School football quarterback Gary Thurman and his rookie card with the Royals.
I was wondering why you had all those Gary Thurmans in there. I had no idea that
he went to North Central. He's an 83 Panther.
What's Gary Thurman doing in there?
Gary Thurman's probably this has got a lot of value over at 86 in Westfield, doesn't it?
Probably did, yeah.
1801 West 86th Street. That bad boy will sell.
I'm impressed. Jake, you had a couple of nice cards in there.
Derek, I got more than just that
pretty good.
in there.
When you first opened it up and I saw Luis Polonio, I was like, oh my God, he's going to embarrass us in front of Andy.
I didn't know what I was looking for here. This is impressive.
That wasn't so bad.
86. I see some 86 Fleers you got in there,
How about
too.
Ernie Banks?
66 tops. That's a good one, too.
What are we looking at there? How many milkshakes?
We got about 5 milkshakes worth there.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah,
Take
maybe
what I
6 if we're lucky.
So before we wrap here, what are the hours for you and days open? You open?
So right now we're open Tuesday through Saturday,
Gotcha.
11 to 5. We're about to extend our hours out to 6 o'clock. We're going to also maybe be open Sundays noon to 5, but don't come in on Sundays yet. We're not there yet. We're involved in a few local card shows, too. The Fisher's J&J show is one of our monthly shows that we always set up at.
J&J, I got that J&J shot yesterday, by the way. Hurt for a little bit.
J&J?
The vaccine,
One and
no
done.
Pfizer. At least it's a one and done, right?
One and done, buddy.
Yeah, the J&J Fisher show is at 126th and 37 at the American Legion. We set up there every month. It's tomorrow if anybody's interested in checking it out. And then here, Tuesday through Saturday right now. We're having a blast.
And then
come check out the new shop.
IndyCardExchange.com, and very active on the socials as well. Instagram.
How about a signed
Ball
Kirby
Card
Puckett?
Exchange.
Signed? How do you know that's signed? Where'd you get it from?
I think I sent it to him. I don't know. I might have bought it somewhere in Minnesota.
Puckett's another one of those unfortunate deaths, right? And his autograph is more rare because of the fact he died.
How do you prove it unless you have a picture of him signing it,
You
right?
send it in to get it authenticated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have people that
who do you
PSA and Beckett are the two companies that we use for authentication. So if they approve that and put it in their little slab and say that it's authentic, they probably have about 50 milkshakes right there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
I love how we're doing.
How about Tony Fernandez signed this in a ballpoint pen. That's got to be worth. I got a milkshake there, right?
Tony Fernandez. Man, he was skinny. I remember him.
Into that card.
You know why he was skinny?
Why?
Couldn't get you any milkshakes with that bad boy. Right. That's exactly right.
I've had a couple of milkshakes. Just a couple.
Thanks so much for having us out,
yeah,
Andy.
Pleasure, guys.
Here, take your
Thank
Jordans
you.
back as much as I would like to just go ahead and run off forever with at least one of those. That is really cool, and I
Jake's
have
looking at
insane
those.
nostalgia over
Look at that.
too.
That's the Bird Magic rookie card right there. That's the one you're holding.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
That's a good one, too.
With Julius Erving, yep.
Yep.
That's an iconic one.
Not as nice as the one I have in here, but that's nice. No, I'm just kidding. It's nice.
Which one's that? Dr. J right there?
Dr. J with the Virginia Squires, who, by the way, was a teammate of former Indiana Mr. Basketball and Butler star Billy Shepard.
Billy comes into the
I don't know
shop
if he was
once
a
in a while.
teammate, but Billy played for the Squires.
Billy and his wife come in here once in a while.
Great dude.
Yeah,
Great
very
guy.
nice guy.
And then Pistol Pete, my dad used to call me like every other kid in 1972. My dad called me Pistol Pete when I was a kid.
Of course.
And
That's his rookie card as well. Yeah, there's some fun ones.
I forget about how old you are sometimes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I do. Andy, thanks so much. We'll come back with
Pleasure,
more
guys.
here from Indy Card Exchange. More cards, more going through Jake's
Derek,
collection.
since it's March Madness, before we go to the break, can you tell me, Derek, if Derek Schultz gets this right, then we will know that his worlds have collided to the point where he is, in fact, a sports savant. Can you tell me in March Madness, Derek, in one of the great moments of your March Madness time as a kid, how this individual right here in this baseball card correlates and parlays into great moments in Derek Schultz NCAA March Madness history?
Oh, boy.
It's a Bruce Benedict Atlanta Braves card, by the way. A Bruce Benedict Atlanta Braves card.
Does it not say what college he went to?
Does not say what college he attended, which was irrelevant to this scenario.
Was he on the 85 Villanova team with Trumbull High School star Harold Jensen?
He was not on the 85 Villanova team.
Did he play for UConn?
Greg Rakestraw, do you know the answer to this question? Bruce Benedict was a college basketball official that was berated by Mike Krzyzewski and the rest of the Duke bench for not calling a foul on Jeff Newton or anybody else when Carlos Boozer missed his shot that would have defeated Indiana but did not in the 2002 regional semis.
Interesting.
I was
like
a
that.
freshman at IU when that happened.
See,
it was a great game.
And we came here because Derek was the baseball coach. Right?
Live on ISU Sports Network.
Another of your solo projects that just went right out the wayside.
It's Query and Schultz, Indy Card Exchange. Stick around.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Query Schultz here on ISC Sports Network, live from Indy Card Exchange on 96th Street. My name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz. And Derek, one thing we know, I actually thought it was a brilliant tweet from our friend Taylor Tannenbaum at Channel 13, and I kicked myself that I didn't think of it, that 2 days ago, Carson Wentz was introduced officially as the trade being official for the Colts. He's going to wear jersey number 2, and Taylor said, "Welcome to Wednesday." I thought that was a brilliant tweet because it was on a Wednesday. But your thoughts now?
I mean, I like Taylor, but
it's pretty good. It's strong.
If it was you, I would have put you back on mute after I saw that, which I do.
Okay.
You know, every once in
how
a
would
while.
you have seen it if I was already on mute?
I would have put you back on mute, so you would have been unmuted. And
Why
then
would you have unmuted me?
Well, sometimes that's what I do. Sorry, should I say that publicly? But I mute and unmute you depending on how I'm feeling about you in that given time.
Okay.
You know, it's what happens in a best friendship. You know, sometimes you're in, sometimes you're out, and right now I feel like we're in. Right? Don't you?
Enough so that I took my mask off temporarily.
No, but Carson Wentz officially introduced. Isn't it ridiculous that we have to wait for this? Like, this trade broke, over a month ago? I mean, my God, in this news cycle, it's extremely old news that Carson Wentz is the Colts quarterback. But I was kind of interested to see what he had to say about the exit from Philly, and he kind of sidestepped that for the most part. He didn't really talk about the conversations that he had with either Roseman or the brass there in Philadelphia. And I understand that he wants to turn the page, and the Eagles want to turn the page too, but I thought maybe we'd get a little bit of I don't know, I was hoping for a juicy tidbit or so. But I did like what he had to say about, you know, being a foundational piece and starting fresh, because that's really what this is, Jake. I mean, this was a guy that at one time was viewed as a franchise-level quarterback, and now it's about getting back to that level again after what was really, by all accounts, a completely and totally disastrous 2020 season.
What is the ceiling for Carson Wentz, in your opinion?
I think Carson Wentz can be a top 10 to 12 level quarterback.
I think that's fair, but Derek, if you get enough weapons around him, I think he can go higher than that. I mean, early in his career, what he showed is he does have an ability to be mobile, to extend plays. The Colts, and I know, look, I'm glad that, like, Zach Pascal has been a really nice player for them, right? T.Y. Hilton, you know, we'll see how much gas is left in the tank of T.Y. Hilton if he's back in Indianapolis. They clearly are going to have a good running game behind him and a good line.
Yeah, how about Marlon Mack coming back? That was a little bit of a surprise, I think.
And with Marlon Mack coming back, to me, what was a surprise was not that he was coming back, but the amount he got. I thought he would have gotten more money.
It's a reflection of the market. I mean, it is bad news Bears to be bad news for the Bears always, Chicago Bears, but bad news Bears in general to be a free agent right now in the NFL.
Yeah, I just, you know, the getting back to what I was saying about Carson Wentz, the pieces are there for him, but you got to get him more than one vertical passing threat. I mean, you've got to get some weapons for him to throw to. I think they've got good tight ends, but is he going to be able to air it out? I go back to, is he Rick Meyer, who started out as a rookie and had all the pieces and all the numbers and you thought was going to be a great player and then just never recaptured that? Or is he going to be a guy that, I'm trying to think of an example of a quarterback, Derek, that was kind of written off and then went to another place?
Tannehill.
And
I mean, Tannehill's the gold center, but the difference is that Wentz actually at least has the 2017 season. Tannehill never had that when he was in Miami. Yes, of course. Let me answer the first question. Of course he needs weapons around him. Every quarterback needs that to be successful. But to me, Jake, my bar is not very high. I don't want to go too overboard because there aren't a lot of quarterbacks who have been successful after having the season that they just had. I mean, we can sit here all we want and talk about, well, Wentz didn't have this and Wentz didn't have that and the Eagles did this and the Eagles did that. He was arguably the worst starting quarterback in the entire league last year. That's not just, he's got to wear some of that. That's not just on everybody else. That also has to fall a little bit on his shoulders. But if he can be the quarterback that he was, forget 2017 and forget 2020. Let's say that those are the two outliers. If he can be the quarterback that he was in 2018 and 2019, I think that's a top 10 to 12 level.
Do they have enough? Here's the thing. Is the supporting cast around him, talking about both the Colts defense and the weapons that he has offensively, in particular their running game, is that enough to say, in other words, when he was in Philly, and I'm not talking about last year, which was a disaster for him, but when he was at his average in Philly, so you take out years, the first and last year, is there enough there to say Indianapolis has more pieces to lift him up a little bit than he was offered in Philadelphia?
Yes, and the caveat there, Jake, is that Philly was ravaged by injuries. So they were hurt so badly with their pass catchers, who weren't even really that good to begin with, to be fair, but hurt so badly with their wide receiver and tight end injuries and then their offensive line injuries that he really didn't have much around him in 2020. So I do think that is an excuse for some of the poor play. I just think to be that bad also has to fall a little bit on him. The Colts roster to me is a B plus roster. I think people sometimes try to make it into an A. I don't think this is an A roster. Certainly not without a left tackle, without a wide receiver one, and really without a dynamic. I mean, maybe Jonathan Taylor is that.
Do you not think T.Y. Hilton, if he returns,
not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. He was.
You think he's already fallen off that cliff?
That ship sailed. Yeah. I mean, look at the last 2 years. I know he's been hurt and all of that, but T.Y. Hilton's best days are behind him.
So he is now a possession receiver, according to you.
He can still be effective. No, I think he can occasionally hit home runs. I do. I just don't think that he's going to threaten for the Triple Crown.
Can Pittman become that?
Yeah, I'm really high on Pittman.
I am too.
I think Pittman at the very least can be a WR2, and maybe has potential to be WR1.
Wide receiver.
No, exactly what I said. People know what I'm talking about. I think he can be a 2. I think he has the potential to be a 1. But the Colts still lack like a keep you up at night, game-breaking type talent offensively. Maybe Jonathan Taylor is that, but they don't have that.
Does it feel at all, not odd is the wrong word, surreal to you that we're doing a remote right now? That we're back in a situation where Eric is here and the Halls were here and folks are coming out and we're talking sports, and maybe I should put a mask back. I've been vaccinated. You haven't. You're a little more reckless. But does it feel weird to you that this is what we're doing?
No, this is what the good Lord put me on the earth to do.
I understand that.
To entertain and to inform.
But there was a lot of speculation or question as to whether or not we would ever actually be back in this situation.
No, for sure. In all seriousness, you wondered when there was going to be. I remember having a conversation with Greg, who's sitting over there before the holidays, of laying out the spring and summer, and hey, we want to start doing Query and Schultz remotes again. When are we going to be able to do that? And I remember thinking, like, around Thanksgiving, God, I don't know. Even if we have the vaccine, we're probably not going to be in a place. I thought fall of 2021 was the first time football season next year. So to be here in March, I would have never told you that was possible 4 months ago. But, credit, I don't like giving, I guess, the government credit for things, but both locally and federally, with this rollout and how aggressive it's been. And, it feels like we're not out of it yet, right? You can't just go out and
absolutely,
mouth breathe on everybody or anything like that, which I know you like to do at local bars. But the light is there at the end of the tunnel that we're seeing now.
I saw Tony in here a second ago too. I think Tony stopped by, but it's good to see people. I went yesterday, Derek. I will simply say this almost as like a public service announcement, but when you go, it is, I will give the state of Indiana credit. To register for my vaccination shot was really simple. Right now, I think for a lot of places, because it's 45 and over, so you're looking at a larger group of people in terms of the numbers that could have the possibility of being vaccinated, there is a wait at a lot of places. So when you go on there and you are registering, it says schedule your appointment, and it lists for you places where you can get the shot. And I know not everybody has the ability, like I did yesterday, to drive down to a small town 2 hours away, because a lot of people have, jobs. But so I actually went and just scrolled through. I wanted the Johnson & Johnson. I wanted the one shot because I begin traveling here in a month, and I didn't want to have to go back in a month and do the second shot. But I went through and found in Ohio County, which is the town of Rising Sun, Indiana. It's a cool little town. I ended up spending like 2 hours down there because I got there early, and they got me in to get me taken care of to come back to Indianapolis, which I was very, very grateful for. But it was super easy, and the people were super nice. if you have the time and you want the one shot as opposed to the two, and you would have to go a little bit outside, whether it be Muncie, Seymour, Rising Sun. But it was, once I got there, it was seamless. Mm-hmm. Got it, boom, done. And then I think it actually takes like 2 weeks. Today, for people who are curious, I have had, knock on plywood here, I've had no side effects. I thought for sure today was going to be brutal. And I was fully intending on the possibility you were going to get your final chance to do like solo. Query Free Fridays again.
Yeah, that'd be great. I miss Query Free Fridays. I think about that sometimes.
Do you?
The only side effect that you're feeling right now, though, I mean, if we're being honest, and this is a show that people come to for news and trusted news source, right? Not fake news. One of the side effects of the shot that you got is now the government knows that you are at 96th Street in
Well, that was the real bonus,
yeah.
Derek. A lot of people asked me if I was worried about
you.
driving that far, and I said no, because they were instilling in me a GPS chip
That's
anyway.
right.
So
yeah.
I mean, all I had to do was send one text, and they knew where I was.
And then after a couple of weeks, the mind control comes in, too.
Now, is that your uncle that thinks that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he won't get – haven't talked to him about the COVID vaccine, but he won't get the flu shot. Because
now, how does the mind control work, if you don't mind me asking? What? How do you know? How would you know if I'm under governmental mind control? If I've been compromised, what things would I say that would lead you to believe that I'm not in the right state of mind?
What things could you say?
Yeah.
Hey, Derek, you're very talented, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me in my career. That would be number one, I think, on that list.
Here's the lead of the show. Is that what?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's the lead host.
Okay.
The number one, RH1, as we used to say. No, but seriously, I'm hoping next month. I mean, I'm thinking. I heard Michigan and Ohio are both April 1st for vaccines. Everybody 16 plus, and I'm thinking Indiana's going to follow suit. So. I never in my wildest dreams thought that before the Indianapolis 500 I'd have the chance to be vaccinated, but looks like that's virtually a guarantee now.
And I think that I am not speaking in any way, shape, or form as an employee, part-time or otherwise, of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because I'm not privy to those meetings. But I do think there are going to be fans at this year's race. It's simply a matter of how many, and I can tell people right now that has yet to be determined.
I would bet, gun to my head, if I had to guess with where they are right now, I think they're planning on at least 50%.
I would think that that's a fair number.
I would guess that they, maybe for optics' sake, say 75%, which would still be more than enough for them to wet their whistle and turn their profit that they need.
That's fair.
After what happened in 2020.
That's definitely fair.
Yeah.
You know. Did you say that Scott Agnes is joining us at some point?
Scott Agnes is going to join us to talk about how the Pacers
I thought
stink.
you were done with the Pacers.
I am done with the Pacers, but they're still, I mean, we have to talk about how they stink. They're still a team in this town. They stink.
No, they're just
they
there,
stink.
right?
They stink. They can't play fourth quarters. They play 75%. We were talking about 75% capacity at the 500. They play 75% of a basketball game. I just think, Jake, that it's time. We keep wanting – this is kind of what we do with the Colts roster too. Like here in Indianapolis, unlike Chicago or New York where they're ingrained to be pessimistic about their teams, we want to have hope. You know what I mean? Like fans here want to have hope about their teams, and when they're not hopeful, then they just kind of shut off. And with the Pacers, I keep hearing about, when they get LeVert back and when they get Warren back, they'll cause teams fits. This team has no chance, none, of beating Brooklyn in a 7-game series. They would be lucky to win a game against the Nets in a 7-game series.
The problem is I don't know, truth be told, and this is what a lot of people I know get frustrated about with the NBA. How many teams can beat Brooklyn in a 7-game series?
No, but that's my point.
I mean, when you've got, Kyrie Irving is out and you say to yourself, all right, we got a puncher's chance. There's no Kyrie Irving. And then, okay, James Harden goes for 40.
These teams,
what are you going to do?
There's been, and it's been this way for the last couple of years, where there's this VIP club in the Eastern Conference. There's this upper crust. And we keep thinking, the Pacers keep teasing us into believing that they're part of this upper crust, and they're not. And they've shown it. The only time that really I
so
thought
are you better off if you're the
that
Pacers?
They had a chance was in 2017 when they took the Cavs to 7 and they were the better team in that series. That was the only time really that it felt like they had a chance.
If you are the Pacers, are you better off just waiting out TJ Warren and not getting caught up in where you stand, and instead just kind of going through the motions and then getting a lottery pick?
Yeah, you don't tank. They don't.
Years, Derek. Of all years to be in the lottery, is this the most enigmatic? Because from a college basketball standpoint, we're not seeing big-time guys that are going into going, playing 30 games and going on the road and playing in front of raucous crowds. And, I know scouts do.
You always have workouts and individual team workouts and film and all this other stuff that you go into. I'm not sure necessarily that the games matter as much. But to answer your question, yeah, of course it's better for the Pacers to fall out than get into the first round of the playoffs and get kicked around, or at the very least maybe win a series and then get kicked around and then get sent back home. It'd be better to have a lottery pick that you could build on, for sure. But that's something that this is a franchise that hasn't had –
the position of need for them is where?
They haven't had a single-digit draft selection since '89.
Their biggest position is where I would say – at this point, if you have LeVert and he's healthy, he's your point, right? Or Brogdon's your point, LeVert is the off. You have Sabonis is a very good low-post player. They need probably –
Sabonis is a good offensive low-post player. I think their problem is that Sabonis has become kind of almost a liability on defense, and then Turner's offense is just, I don't think, ever going to quite get to where they hope it would get, even though his defense obviously has very much improved, and he's become an elite-level shot blocker and defender. I don't know if there's a certain position that the Pacers need, Jake. I think what the Pacers need is they need an A, and they have a bunch of Bs. Like, it's great to get Bs. Bs are great. 3.0 is what I shot for in high school and college. That was my GPA. I was a low, I wasn't very successfl as a student. But just because you have a bunch of Bs, just because you have 5 Bs in your starting lineup, who cares? If you have no As, who cares?
I think they could use a long, and I hate to use buzzwords from drafts, a long wing player that can collapse lanes defensively and score on his own offensively from the wing. A 6'9" guy that can hit from 15 feet or get to the rim if he needs to. I don't know how many of those guys exist.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A Christian Wood. I know he's 7 foot, but
I agree with they need a bunch of different things, but what they really just need, it doesn't even matter for a skill set, is they need a guy that's going to keep you up at night. If you don't have Embiid, if you don't have Giannis, if you don't have Kyrie, if you don't have KD, if you don't have Steph, if you don't have Dame, if you don't have a guy that keeps you up at night.
How about Luka Doncic? You didn't mention
Luka. If you don't have a guy that keeps you up at night,
Jimmy Butler,
you're not going anywhere.
Jimmy Butler?
He was last year in the bubble, for sure. If you don't have that guy, you're not going anywhere. So I think it's great.
Jason Tatum,
Malcolm
see that
Brogdon, maybe. At least there's still a chance, I think,
Jaylen
that
Brown?
He's that guy. No, I don't think he's that guy.
Who's coaching those two next year?
You're doing – am I like in the Bud Light hot seat here or something? You're like firing questions. We're supposed to have a conversation here.
It is a conversation.
This is weird. I know that it's been a while since we had a live remote, but I don't want you like barking questions
Well,
at
you look
me.
kind of like that Stump the Schwab fella. And so it's throwing me off on the program.
You know what? I'm going to take that as a compliment because of his wealth of knowledge.
When he would get a question right, he'd go.
But I will say that, obviously he was more of a heavy-set fella. And earlier today, I threw my ish around at the JCC. It was chest day.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying. I think the viewers at home know that it was chest day. And
so
the Schwab thing just kind of rolls right off my bulging shoulders. I'm not going to
Does it get thrown off by your lats? Is that what you're saying?
Not going to sweat that. Neck's a little sore, too. Did shoulder shrugs.
My arm is not even sore, and I got the vaccine yesterday.
Mm-hmm. No Upright issues. Row. Did that at the gym.
Upright row.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't know. You do like machines
and
stuff.
Are you not at the
Planet? I do free weights.
Are you not at the Planet Fitness anymore?
No, we're not doing PF anymore. JCC because Big Boy likes all the programs there. He's doing tennis lessons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I got the next Jimbo Connors.
Okay.
Really excited about that. But I'm also excited about Scott Agnes coming by to say hi. He's going to talk Pacers with us. And we've got other stuff to get to. An NCAA Tournament update here with some of the late afternoon games starting
got a game going to overtime.
Get into the second half and even later into that. Also, Jake, I think we'd be remiss not to mention Purdue, who's playing tonight, whose season actually is still going. We have this All-Indiana tournament, and the only team from Indiana that's still alive is Purdue. So we'll talk some Boilermaker basketball coming up. Still an hour to go here in this live edition of Query Schultz from Indy Card Exchange on 96th Street. Stick around on ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. My name is Jake Query. Derek Schultz is here as well. I don't know why I keep saying that, Derek. I assume people at this point would know who we are, right?
Yeah. I know that has happened with Tony, and Sean Kroll was here, and we've had
Sean's all decked out in his Illinois
Eric
gear.
was
I'm
here.
telling you, ILLI, man. Illinois is good.
And it gives you a little bit of hope maybe for IU because Illinois was completely mediocre and forgettable for really the last 10 to 12 years. They had a good team last year before the season got shut down, and now look at, boom, just like that, Brad Underwood's got him as a title contender in whatever year. What is this, year 5 for him, I think? Or year 5?
Yeah.
I think it's year 5.
We had him during the Final Four,
Radio
right?
Row, San Antonio, yeah.
And I thought he was cool.
Yeah, we actually had him, and we had Mike Boynton on, who replaced him at Oklahoma State, who's got a good Cowboys team.
I know you're high on Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I actually backed off them. I originally had them in my Final Four, and I backed off of that.
Upset alert, by the way. Ohio State down 2 to Oral Roberts. That game is in overtime, but very early in the overtime. But let's talk about Purdue in the tournament and Purdue's game this evening. Actually, before we do that, because I know you want to talk more Pacers. You can't get enough of the Pacers. So
yeah, we were kind of going on the Pacers earlier, so this actually is great timing to have Scott Agnes on. Fieldhouse Files has covered the blue and gold for a long, long time here. And
he did a really good interview, by the way. I know I just cut you off there, Derek. Scott, I don't remember when it was, probably about a month ago. You did a really good, and I don't think I gave you the proper compliment for it. You did a really good interview, about a 20 or 5, maybe even 30-minute interview with Donnie Walsh about his departure from the Pacers that I thought was just a great conversation about his history. But the thing that was impressive to me about it is a lot of people, when they do an interview, you don't need me to tell you this, but they get caught when somebody's done answering a question and they're, oh, wait a minute, he's done talking and I wasn't anticipating it. There's like this lull. I thought it was just a supernatural conversation. It was like a podcast of the two of you guys, like you've been sitting around forever, like hanging out. I thought it was really cool.
Well, first of all, I appreciate it. Yeah, he, as you know, he's one of those guys you could just talk endlessly with, right? It's one of those where I feel bad, and I think we got to like minute 38, and I was like, all right, I should probably cut this off for his sake, although he can go on for hours. So I thought it was a really good interview. What I tried to do was cover it in 2 instances, right? Why are you retiring? Why are you moving on? And then I wanted to kind of summarize his career and what led to his decisions and what informed those and what were some of his principles that allowed for him to stay for so long.
Now, in terms of the Pacers as they stand now, going from the past of the Pacers to the present, Derek and I were just talking about it, what their need is. And they're kind of in a pickle, Scott, because the reality is that the Pacers are in that murky mid-range in the NBA where I don't know that they are a player away, but they're also not so bad that you completely tear it down and build it back up. So what is missing? What is the key that they need to get, in your opinion, to get things turned around and get back to being an Eastern Conference contender?
Yeah, I was able to catch the last 10 minutes of you guys talking on my way in, and I would agree that swingman is really what they need. The Gordon Hayward, right? That's why the Pacers were adamant and went after him so hard in the offseason because he filled a need at both ends of the floor. He's a guy that could score you 20 or distribute like he did last night against the Lakers. He didn't score 10 points, but I think he finished with 9 rebounds and 12 assists. The other thing you could push for is that 4 guy, the guy that will be a physical big inside, that'll do the dirty work, that'll get the rebounds, because as we've seen for the last at least half decade, rebounding is consistently an issue.
When you look at kind of where they are this season, and look, I know that they're not going to tank, and asking professionals to tank is something that just a bunch of old AM radio guys do, right, Jake? I mean, it's not really something that happens. Of course, when you go
Derek,
out on the court,
let's be honest, Derek, we tanked, which is how we ended up as old AM radio guys,
You're
right?
paid to do a job. You're going to end up trying. But that said, is it unfair of me to say that at 17 and 22 on March 19th, and we've got a little bit more in this season than a normal NBA regular season, about 2 months left, maybe it would just be better if the losses mount, and I'm a Pacers fan, I'm cool with it, because maybe it would just be better for this year to fall into the lottery and take this as kind of a punt year with the Oladipo trade into the LeVert health scare into what has happened here with waiting around for TJ Warren with the boot.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because last night I had a really close friend text me and goes, hey, I'm not going to lie, I kind of like this Pacer season because it's interesting through 3 quarters, it's competitive, it's worth my attention, but then they're losing in the 4th quarter, so we can finally maybe get a draft pick. I don't like that school of thought, because then what's the point, I feel like? But you guys are absolutely right. I mean, they're kind of stuck in that land, the great stat, right? They haven't drafted inside the top 10 since '89. It's because they're consistently in the postseason 25 of 31 years. Mm-hmm. So while that's nice, you also have that end game of let's do something more. Let's be relevant rather than just kind of floating the middle way through the Eastern Conference. And I think that's why, again, to go back to the coaching change, that's why they made that. You're going to have losses in the short term, is their belief, to get the wins when it really matters. And that's certainly what they're going through right now, 8 of 10. And it's been much worse than that even over this last month.
I'm going to describe to you, Scott, a guy on the Pacers roster, and then I want you to tell me which guy I'm describing.
Okay.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. There's a reason I'm doing it beyond just being like on a game show here. Doesn't always have his number called, can maybe even go a few games without seeing the floor, but then can get minutes kind of in bunches when called upon, and usually makes 1 or 2 hustle-type plays, be it a defensive steal or stop, or a key kind of electric basket. But I think has waited his time and worked his way into the rotation that may squeeze out a few names that we're more familiar with. Which player?
Edmund Sumner.
That is correct.
Yeah. Most athletic guy on the team, guy that has high potential. But up until this year, we didn't know what he was just due to injuries. So you're exactly right. Yeah, he's a guy that they still have high hopes for. That's why I think it was 2 summers ago, gave him a 3-year deal when he really hadn't done anything for that exact reason. So you're right. And so far we've seen that in the last, 10 days, 2 weeks, is Aaron Holiday's slid his way back.
The 2 players who the rise of Edmund Sumner may cost minutes for. Aaron Holiday is one. The other would be who? Maybe I'm off base here. I think if he continues to evolve, and I really like this other guy, but if he continues to evolve, I could see it coming somewhat at the expense of Jeremy Lamb.
Okay. Oh, yeah, potentially.
McDermott's played well as well, though. McDermott's a guy that typally was only playing well on the road in terms of, I'm being a little facetious, but
No, you're exactly right.
His outside shooting, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But McDermott, offensively speaking, they have found ways to get McDermott in terms of the penetration off the curl for him that has benefited him and allowed him to be a scorer. McConnell's a guy you just can't keep off the floor.
With Holiday, Scott, do you think that clearly other teams have called and have been interested with him, and since he hasn't really been able to get solid footing, is that something maybe in the offseason that the Pacers would relook at? Or they've seemingly remained consistent in saying that they really like Aaron Holiday, but it doesn't seem like their actions tend to back that up all the time.
Yeah, well, first leading into this year was something where Nate McMillan's just going to put his best players out there. And I think one of his faults was he was never going to sacrifice minutes or playing time for the future. And Aaron Holiday was one of those. For example, Goga didn't really play much last year. I think right now with him, they have that conundrum. They have to decide, are you a guy that we can count on 25 minutes a game, or can we get more value for him created? Because, yes, him and Miles Turner have the most trade value outside of guys you're really not trying to move off of, especially Miles Turner right now. I think especially the LA teams could really use him. But I think coming into this season is when I'd look look and consider Aaron's value because you're just not getting as much as you would expect from a guy like him.
You know, the other guy that coming into the year, Scott, I had always heard had some trade value. And I'm wondering if this year hasn't diminished that value because he has had opportunity to show value and maybe hasn't blossomed it just yet, and that is Goga Batadze. Where does Goga Batadze fit in, do you think, both long-term, and is he a guy that they still could dangle around perhaps in a package if they think they can improve their roster?
I think he would only be included in a deal if it kind of finishes the deal and gets it done, is that last piece.
Right.
I don't think anyone specifically is trading for him. I think they would like to keep him around a couple more years, figure out what he is. He's he's very young, just like 20 years old, and so give him time to develop within their system, and it creates a bigger opportunity if they do move off a guy like Miles Turner, because then he needs to be slotted in there potentially and get more than 5-7 minutes a game, because he's a guy, much like Edmond was, that you might play him 3 straight games, and then he doesn't see the floor for 2 weeks.
Do they have a coach that's learning on the job?
Absolutely. This is what I expected at the beginning of the year. I was surprised how quickly they jumped out. But I think that was a product of continuity and the fact no teams really had a training camp. And so they could lean on what they did last year. He didn't change too much. Even Brad, I asked him that question, I think it was their 3rd game of the season, how much different are they? And he said, first of all, let me note, they're picking up where they left off last year. They're with some tweaks, those defensive tweaks that are obvious and pressuring up. And so that's in part why I think now they've settled in a little bit. And the other teams that needed time to develop, they're rising up.
Who do you think is the head coach of the Boston Celtics in a year?
Good question. Yeah, if it's not Brad, I don't know where they go.
Is it Brad Stevens? Because here's the thing, Scott. I know a lot of people are under the assumption, and I understand it, when Brad Stevens' name is being floated around with Indiana and it's kind of becoming a groundswell, and maybe part of that's wishful thinking. I personally think there is fire with the smoke. But the thought process from a lot of people is, why would Brad Stevens leave the heritage, the legacy, and the history of the Boston Celtics to go coach Indiana? Well, what if Brad Stevens has had discussions with Danny Ainge where he knows the possibility is there that Boston's decided after 8 years, which is an eternity in NBA years, that they're going to move in a different direction? Isn't it in his best interest at that point to say, you know what, I'm going to nip this in the bud? Do you think that discussion, and I want to be clear, to protect you and Fieldhouse Files, Scott Agnes, I mean, I'm not asking you this as if you would have, but just your gut. You've been around the NBA a decent amount of time. You talk to people. Do you think the possibility is there that all things are being discussed with Boston about where they go in their coaching direction?
I think you have to, because, well, first of all, let me say this. I think from what I've been told, there continues to be conversations both ways. And so there's real interest. I would tend to think he stays, but that doesn't mean he's giving it serious thought. I think really for the first time significantly. I've also heard his salary. I was calling around today. His salary is higher than I think current salary than we currently know it to be.
Well, I
think it started 3.5. I've heard it's up more towards 5-6 right now. Now, no, that's not on the record with anyone. There's no stories out. But as I was calling around, they were like, no. You're going to have to do more than $5 or $6 million per year. He's already there.
Yeah, his base is probably 3.4, and then you wonder with who knows what sort of, he could be doing ads for Scott Agnes Honda in Boston for an additional,
it's really
you just
odd
never
to
know.
me that I couldn't dig that up, because I did the same thing, Scott, where I was looking around and I saw the 5 highest paid, which were between 8 and 11. It's like Pop and Kerr and Nick Nurse and Spoelstra are all up there, and I figured I could just find a spreadsheet with every NBA coach salary for this season, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
I think that's for 2 reasons. One, there's basically 2 agents that control coaches, that represent coaches. And the difference, too, with Brad is his wife mostly does that. Although I believe, again, this is one of those that no one's gone on record about, that he brought in a bigger guy to help negotiate his latest contract extension, which was this past summer. Same with Nate McMillan. But to Jake, your first point, in terms of is this it for Boston anyway? I think they have to give that serious thought, even more so with Danny Ainge.
Right.
And then if you bring in a different general manager, and that could be one, they've failed relatively to expectation.
Man, I'm telling you, Scott, the thing that's
they missed their
amazing
window.
about this is that's the thing. I mean, 2 years ago, the thought that the Boston Celtics would be in this position was almost unfathomable, right?
Remember all those draft picks?
I mean,
and what have they done with those? They've hit on a couple, in fairness, but that's it.
And those Cavs teams, I mean, that 2017 team that should have lost to the Pacers, I mean, that really felt like that was the one. By the way, Ohio State just went down. Wow.
I would like everybody in Central Indiana to hold their tears as the Buckeyes of Ohio State have been eliminated to Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts defeats him in overtime, 75-72. Chris Holtmann, who is a heck of a coach, and a great year for Ohio State. Absolutely a great year, but Oral Roberts, this is what you get a lot of times, and I'm not saying it isn't the case with Ohio State, but some of these mid-majors, Derek, you get guys that are, and I don't know with Oral Roberts, I haven't looked at their roster, but you get junior, senior-laden teams that know how to play late in games. Oral Roberts made shots down the stretch, and the first big knockout has happened.
Yeah, 15-2s are still pretty rare, though. I remember not too long ago, like 10 years ago, there was still, I think, only 5 occurrences of that happening. Santa Clara or something like that. So it was single digits. And then you had that year where it was Lehigh and Norfolk State, I think, both won in the same year. And then you've had a bunch of, not a bunch, but a couple more 15s that have won since then.
I'll tell you what, you got to give Chris Holtmann a heck of a coach, though. And that's a great year for Ohio State. Great year for Ohio State. But in Mackey, their season comes to an end.
Let me look up. Greg says that there's 9. I actually want to see all 9.
Well, are you talking about the 2 seeds that have won?
Yeah, 9 times.
I believe 9 times. The very first 2 seed to have won was Steve Nash's Santa Clara team over Arizona.
Coppin State was one of them. They beat like South Carolina or Clemson.
Northwestern State, isn't that right?
Northwestern State was a 14 that beat Iowa. They were a 3. The
That
Brian
was at
Brunner
14,
Iowa
okay.
team. Yeah. Here it is. Oh, Richmond beating
Hampton.
Syracuse. Richmond beating Syracuse was 1.
Hampton?
Yep. Hold on. Santa Clara, 93. Coppin State beat South Carolina, 97. Hampton with the guy. Didn't UE hire him?
Yeah.
And then it was a disaster, right? Murfeld?
Yeah, Steve Murfeld, yep.
See, I still got it. I still got my fastball. This is our first live remote in 14 months, and I'm still showing it off. Lehigh over Duke, Norfolk State over Missouri. Those are both in the same year. Oh, how can we forget Florida Gulf Coast? They went all the way to the Sweet 16.
What about
Middle Tennessee beating Michigan State? And now, wow, this actually has it right here on NCAA.com. Oral Roberts defeats Ohio State.
what
that was
was
quick.
Kansas Bucknell?
That was a 4-13, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, there have been big upsets that seeding-wise it wasn't as big, but it was shocking.
Scott, give me the first NCAA tournament run that you remember that like captivated people. Are you too young to remember Loyola Marymount in 90?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, I'm still amazed by your memory, like how you just remember. Oh yeah, they were at this seed and they won. I don't have that. The earliest run I remember enjoying was, and as weird as this sounds, is Stephanie White's Purdue women's team.
Okay.
I remember exactly where I was. Spring break, out on the East Coast.
That team was really good.
It was a lot of fun to watch, and then
they came back 2 years later. Remember when Katie Douglas was it 2 years later than when Katie Douglas was a senior and then went to the finals and lost to Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, 01?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, of course, you had that IU run in 2002.
Greg is giving
That was a
hand
great
signals.
one. Yeah,
back
we've
here.
got our stat boy that's over here on the other side. I think the first one, well,
Greg said my baseball cards were all junk. He's like Darren Ravel over here. I said, what do you think? And he goes, they're all junk. Sentimental
You
value
were
only.
giving him such a hard time for that.
What's that?
You were giving him such a hard time for that.
Him being who?
Darren.
Well, Darren.
Darren
I'm a big
Ravel.
Darren guy, so.
Darren's tweet, though.
Scott, his tweet was pretty bad.
The guy's dad was, or
He's very,
just died, right?
Darren
I
is
mean,
very straightforward, to the point, lacking of emotion, business. And so I took that into consideration because you could tell Darren's enjoyed the feeling of I'm the guy, right? I can tell you what your cards are worth. I have so much expertise in this. So he took it as being requested of what is this worth? And so he was just being straightforward. I get where you're coming from, but
here's the
I understood
thing.
his evaluation.
Here's the thing. If I said to you, hey, you know a little bit about basketball shoes. I've got a pair of basketball shoes. I have no idea what they're worth. I found them in the closet. If they were junk, you would say, yeah, man, those are junk. If I said to you, I have a pair of basketball shoes that my dad held on to for 45 years because they belonged to my grandfather, and the last thing that he did on his deathbed was hand them to me to tell me that he wanted me to cherish them forever and perhaps pay off his grandkids' education. If you looked at it, you would then say, Jake, I don't know how to tell you this, and I know they mean a tremendous amount to you, but unfortunately they've just become really commonplace, and those shoes aren't as valuable as unfortunately they might have
You let him down lightly.
Yeah, it's tone. Yeah. It's tone and
but
sentiment.
so this guy says, look, I finally have come up with the emotion to be able to go through all of Dad's stuff. And his literal response was pretty much all junk. Come on, man.
No, I get that. The other thought is, hey, at least he responded because he gets.
I get that.
He gets all kinds of mentions, so at least he took the time. Same goes for his Instagram DMs, which
I actually didn't have. The only things I said to him, we're talking about Darren Ravel, is I just simply said, I don't even remember how. Oh, I said the fact that you think this is entirely monetary says a lot. And he said, well, that's why he tagged me because he was asking me to assess him. And I said, I don't see that at all. You know, I actually didn't even say, well, I don't see where that happened. But then he said, look, I've had conversations with the individual and was able to explain myself. And I wrote back and said, well, it only took a Twitter misunderstanding, 1 million people calling you out for it, and, you know, for some compassion to come into play. So good job.
He's just a little too robotic, I think, is the problem.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. I mean, something significant will happen emotionally, and he'll tell you the cost right away of it, rather than recognizing also the commonplace.
Now, do you know him?
Kind of, yeah. We go back, like he was here during what was the last tournament? Big Ten tournament last year. He was here for a promotion and was staying at Ironworks.
You call him DR?
No, I do not. No,
I've
been pushing him to start a podcast.
When he was with didn't he start MSNBC? Wasn't that
CNBC?
CNBC.
He had a show.
Yeah, and my old solo radio show on 950, I had Darren Ravel on before and then he blew up and then went to ESPN and the whole
I'll
deal.
bet that was a chick magnet conversation for the two of you, Derek.
It was actually really informative. And
He was here and hosted a tweet up actually during the Super Bowl, and that's where I first met him.
How old is he?
Mid-40s?
Between our ages.
Okay.
Yeah, he's younger than you think.
He's a native of where? I know he went to Northwestern, right? Isn't that where he went?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
So is he a Chicagoan?
I don't think so.
If you had to guess where Darren Ravel went to college, aside like Northwestern's where he went, but like he's in terms of his fan base, like if he was a fan of a team, doesn't he seem like he seems to me like he'd be a Notre Dame fan?
No, Michigan football. Yeah,
you get angry.
Michigan football.
look, you're getting angry, Derek. Why are you getting angry?
Just the arrogance.
Is everything going okay? Everything going all right?
I'm not angry about it.
I was going to say Steelers fan. Build on history and tradition.
Hey,
he knows the value there.
I grew up a huge Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I don't see anything about where he's
absolutely.
from. I only see that he graduated magna cum laude from Northwestern. That's it.
It doesn't say his high school?
No.
New Trier. That's my guess.
Yes.
He's a New Trier guy.
I would
all
agree.
The way around,
I don't think he is, but that's exactly who he is.
Yeah. You know how you can tell somebody went to New Trier?
Yeah.
You just sit next to him on an airplane, and within 30 seconds, it comes up in conversation. You know, I went to New Trier. Okay.
Scott, tell us where, obviously, people can find you on ISC Sports Network with your Fieldhouse Files daily download, but give a plug to everything else that you have going on with your Pacers coverage because it's really great stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm basically writing every single day at fieldhousefiles.com and then doing a weekly podcast, also Fieldhouse Files. So pretty straightforward with that. Next conversation will be with Laval Jordan talking about Karis LeVert, because that's the kind of only friend and guy he had here when he moved to town.
How did he recruit him?
He was,
or was he just on the staff when he was there?
I believe he said he recruited him some, but it turned out because he's from Ohio, and I think he wasn't able to get his first guy, so he kind of jumped in there late, and it just lucked out, and then they developed a strong relationship.
How has covering the NBA been different now that? Aside from the bubble, you did or did not go down to Orlando?
Did not. Okay. Very few people did.
Right, that's what I thought. So right now, covering the Pacers is done how? Because I hear in post games, I know it's on a Zoom, and oftentimes I hear your questions, but are you actually at the games themselves or shoot-arounds, things like that? What access do you have?
So all remote, except for home games where I'm there. But like tonight, road game at Miami. So I'll just be at my desk, have a couple screens, and every interview is over Zoom. And so you have no feel for the locker room. There's been several celebrations, Karis' first game, Nate's first win, Domas' triple-double. You have no feel for what they're going through in there. So that's one thing that's really missing. Then also you're kind of sharing in everything, which as reporters you hate that.
I don't do that well.
I hate that. There's times where I'm working on a story and it ends up other places, and there's nothing more frustrating. Right. So occasionally you lean on contacts and make calls, but these guys don't want to be bothered. There's enough going on. They're playing every other day. So it's all Zoom, remote for road games, and I do go to every single home game. That one that was almost postponed, no fans, I was the only guy in the media row. That was fun.
Oh, sweet. Really?
Yeah.
So they still let you come in?
Yeah.
I thought they just shut that off to everybody. I
Just
didn't know that they.
Derek.
No, but I'm just saying that's cool that they let
No,
Scott in.
you had to have the announcers call the game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you'd have to.
It's a stunner to think that Derek would have been under the impression that no one's allowed in.
Okay.
It's like prom all over again.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
At Scott Agnes as well on Twitter, at Fieldhouse Files, and ISCSportsNetwork.com for the daily download. Thanks for swinging by, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always good to have. I miss this with having a radio show, right?
I know.
The first day of the tournament was awesome.
Great.
So thanks for inviting me.
It's an itch that needed to be scratched, I think. 14 months is a long time to not have a live remote. And I just like being out. I mean, in the most humbly way possible, Jake. I like being out in front of my fans again. Like, that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing for me. That's
They're
the
all
real
right here.
connection that I have. I'm a people person.
Okay.
We've got more from Indy
Fans
Card
and
Exchange.
cards, two things that as a kid you always aspired to obtain.
Coming
right?
up here in just a bit, we're going to talk Purdue basketball. Still about a half an hour to go here. Query Schultz live, Indy Card Exchange, 96th Street. Come see us here live until 6 o'clock on ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Are the first big fall in this year's NCAA Tournament. The 2021 tournament now has a number 2 seed that has been bounced. Ohio State losing to Oral Roberts. That just happened a couple of moments ago in overtime. Of course, that game in Indiana. Actually, that game was in West Lafayette, but here in central Indiana with the NCAA Tournament. And speaking of West Lafayette, Derek, that takes us to Purdue, the lone Hoosier State representative in the tournament. And I think you have to be thrilled with what Matt Painter's done this year. I'm not certain that look, what he has done at Purdue, and I think what we've seen with Purdue that is so impressive and probably difficult for a lot of fans, like Indiana fans or even Butler fans, to watch, is the fact that I think Painter's done a great job, Derek, of simply building a program to the point where he is now at the point where he doesn't have to go out and recruit guys that based on their stars. Hey, this guy's a 5-star recruit, so I have to get him. This guy's a 4-star recruit, so I have to get him. What Purdue has done is brilliantly now laid out a groundwork. And let's talk about, and I'm not trying to turn everything into Indiana, but because the situation at Indiana before we get to Purdue and how it parlays into Purdue this year. If you look at Archie Miller when he took over the Indiana program, Indiana was coming off of having some success with Tom Crean, and Archie Miller got into a situation where it was accelerated for him, and he couldn't really put in and have the time to lay down a blueprint and a foundation for the way he wanted to do things, and rather was just trying to keep things accelerated in terms of the recruiting and getting Romeo Langford and trying to maintain at a high level. When Matt Painter took over at Purdue, what he had was he was coming off of the Gene Cady era where things had definitely dipped, but he was given and afforded the time to build a program really from the bottom and build it to the point where he was the architect of this is exactly the way I'm going to run things and the teams I'm going to build. And what you have with Purdue right now with their basketball program is typically a really good big, an upperclassman or two, and young talent that is molding game by game, but shooters on the floor as well, and guys, good guard play that complements. And he goes out, Derek, and he recruits guys not necessarily based on how good a player they are, and obviously you got to be a good player, but how good a personality they are to mesh with the guys that are already there. And then you see it come together cohesively, and that's what's happened, I think, with this Purdue team a year ahead of schedule. I think they're a year ahead of where they were expected to be at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, I mean, they have no seniors. And you kind of know the names and faces change, but the skill sets of the guys that they recruit kind of remain the same, right? And they like to play like this inside out, where a lot of times it's all about getting the ball inside. Williams, Haas, Biggie Swanigan. Surround them, though, with good perimeter players that can either knock down shots or create on their own, and that's kind of what they've always had with Vincent Edwards or Jaden Ivey or people like that who can create, and then shooters like Matthias or Sasha that can hit from the outside and really knock down shots. But I really appreciate and have come to appreciate, just like I said, the culture that he's built at Purdue, because I think people think that that's easy because Gene Cady did it for 20 years, but it wasn't easy, especially considering, as you kind of outlined, the situation that he entered, because I was in college in the early 2000s at IU, and I saw those Purdue teams, and I guess you kind of had that Kenny Lowe team in 2003 that was sort of decent.
Did
okay.
Willie Dean's team do okay?
Willie Dean was all right. David Teague was a pretty good player for them, even though Teague kind of bridged that gap and played on those Landry and was on that Carl Landry team that was Painter's first good team in his second year. But those teams, Jake, once that Cardinal, Carson Cunningham, like that kind of group left, those teams weren't any good in the early 2000s, really.
Right.
And the talent and the recruiting really started dropping off. And you were wondering, would Purdue be able to get this back going again? And it took Painter 2 years. Like, we talk a lot about the baby Boilers. That 2007 team played Florida, who was the eventual national champion, really well in the second round. Like, that was a good basketball team. And that was his second year. And then, of course, the Hummel, Echuan, Juwan Johnson class came in that was really transformative to the entire program. And outside of a brief hiccup in about 2012, 2013, this is who Purdue's been, a high-level competitive 2, 3, 4, 5 seed, top half of the Big Ten, top 4 of the Big Ten, second weekend NCAA tournament caliber program.
I had a conversation, Matt Painter, who we've gotten to know over the course of this show, and really like. I mean, he's obviously very likable, not only as a coach, but just as a guy and the way he runs his program. But I had a conversation the other day with a contemporary of his, a competitor of his that played at Indiana during the years, and I think we know that Painter grew up an Indiana fan. He's talked about that a lot with us. But we were talking about the last great night teams at Indiana and how, truthfully, Matt Painter has kind of become the Bob Knight of the mid-'90s. And by that I mean those Indiana teams got to a point, Derek, where they were recruiting to what best worked for Indiana, okay? Was it a Jamal Meeks or a Brian Sloan or guys like that? Maybe they weren't guys that Michigan or Villanova or North Carolina was going to take at that time, but they fit for what Indiana wanted, Indiana needed. And that's what Painter is doing right now. And so when we were talking about it, the conversation was like the 93 Indiana team that was number 1 in the country and probably would have won it all had Henderson not gotten hurt. How many guys on that team go to Indiana today? And the conversation that we were having was Alan Henderson probably gets really heavily recruited by Indiana today because he was a 5-star number 1 player in the country. Greg Graham, perhaps, because he was uber athletic and was a 4 or 5-star player, and Lawrence Funderburk. But other guys, Brian Evans, who was just a spot-up shooter, Chris Reynolds, who was an elite defender. Those guys now are are Purdue players. I mean, Matt Painter has taken the mold and the model that so many people around here, and I know it's painful for Indiana fans to say, that they loved for so long, and he's taken it to Purdue. And that's the program now, right? Whoever takes over this Indiana job, they are behind where Purdue is.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue has become the prominent program now in Indiana, certainly over the last 10 years.
It's been cyclical, admittedly,
success.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Crean had Indiana going for a while there, obviously coming off of Butler's successes. Now it's Purdue's turn. Mike Bray had Notre Dame in the Elite Eight, back-to-back years. So in terms of the state, it is cyclical. But it's Purdue's turn at the pedestal.
And you mentioned Knight. Every player had a purpose and a role, and that's what you notice with Purdue. Like, we could sit here all we want and talk about, Travion Williams. Yeah, duh. You know what his Jaden Ivey. Yeah, duh. Mason Gillis, though, provides this.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Isaiah Thompson provides this. You have somebody else Keaton Grant does this. And so, yes, they do have the guys that are the straws that stir the drink. But what makes Purdue just as good and what makes them really great is Ryan Klein can step in and be the guy and hit big shots and carry you if you need him to. And Grant and Kramer and all these other guys that were ancillary pieces that P.J. Thompson that played big roles for them on really good Purdue teams. And Indiana doesn't have that.
That's a good word, ancillary.
Yeah.
I don't.
But another thing, Jake,
that out of your repertoire.
Not only does Indiana not have a culture, they don't have an identity, and that's something else that Purdue has. I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about all the things that Purdue has that Indiana doesn't have right now. It's a laundry list. But culture and identity are the two biggest ones to me. You know who Purdue is. You know how they're going to play. You know what they like
Derek,
to do.
They have good players coming in next year. They have two really good Purdue-style players. And, again, you never know in recruiting. Recruiting is a total crapshoot, in my opinion. That's why I just get so tired of people that get so over the top about, this guy committed or that guy committed. You never know. You just never know. Mm-hmm. But theoretically, I mean, you still would rather have the guys that Purdue has coming in look to be the prototypical, just complementary, perfect pieces for Purdue basketball. Bigs, and they already have good guards. The other thing that they've been able to do,
but some of them are, like elite. They have the two best players in Indiana coming in.
That's what I mean.
In this next class,
right?
Yeah,
but they are guys that do exactly what Purdue does.
For sure. I think the balance that
they're not
struck,
just taking guys, Derek, because they're 5 stars. Purdue had. I'm telling you right now, Purdue had an opportunity. Romeo Langford, when he was a sophomore in high school, Romeo Langford reached out to, not him directly, but his family reached out to Purdue because they had cooled on Romeo Langford. And Purdue did not feel that Romeo Langford was what they wanted. He didn't fit the identity of exactly the kind of player or the background that Matt Painter wanted. Not making him a bad guy at all. They knew he was a one and done, and that's not what they wanted. He didn't fit exactly what they wanted. So they went elsewhere.
No, and I like that they do that. But the balance that he struck is that he can still get prominent, heavily recruited players to buy in and accept that, okay, I'm willing to do this early, and then I know that I'm going to be this player later on for you. Eric Hunter scored a bajillion points in high school. I think Eric Hunter is like the 5th or 6th all-time leading scorer in Indiana history, all-time.
Right.
And he comes into Purdue, and he's basically a role player for his first couple of years. And even
5?
now, he's not a prominent offensive player for them, but he serves a purpose, and he helps make the train go, no pun intended, because it's Purdue. And he's bought into that, and it's hard to get guys to do that. It's hard to tell Mason Gillis, Gillis maybe less so because of the injuries, but Brandon Newman, hey, I know you're ready to play right now, but guess what? You're going to redshirt for me. You're going to punt this year. Like, if I'm Brandon Newman, I'm thinking to myself, Coach, are you serious? I want to play. I could have gone anywhere else and played right away. That wouldn't have redshirted me, but he bought into what he wanted to do.
How many of the top 5 scores in Indiana high school basketball history can you name?
Damon.
Can we do one of our little games here? You pull
yeah.
Up, see?
Well, do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
I'll try.
Okay.
Well, between the two of us, I bet we can come up with it.
DeAndre Thomas, Romeo Langford.
Well, no. You mean Deshaun Thomas?
Oh, sorry. Deshaun Thomas.
Okay, hold
Romeo
on.
Langford.
Damon Bailey is one.
Damon Bailey.
Hold on. Bailey is one, so second. Second would be Langford, right?
I think he was third. I think Deshaun Thomas was second, wasn't he?
Marion Pierce is very high.
Let me look.
I'm going to say that it's okay. I'm going to say it's Bailey 1, Pierce 2, Langford 3, Thomas 4, Brody Boyd 5.
I thought Langford finished third and was behind Thomas, but I might be wrong here. All right, career scoring leaders.
Okay.
You ready? Bailey 1, Pierce is 2.
Okay.
Deshaun Thomas 3, Langford 4, Brody Boyd is 5.
I just said Brody Boyd 5.
Brody Boyd 5.
Knew that.
Can you get the rest of them?
How
about I give you hints?
Okay, give me the schools.
Well, if I give you the school for this next one,
Alan
you'll get it
Henderson.
right away. No, Lebanon.
Okay, Rick Mount.
Rick Mount is 6. The guy that we just mentioned plays for Purdue now.
Eric Hunter.
Eric Hunter 7. Okay. Played at Xavier and was
Travion Blewett.
Yeah, I remember watching him he was 2 years
Did I say
under.
His name right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was 2 years under Yogi Ferrell, and I thought,
nice
oh my God, this kid's going to be really good. He's 8th all time. Originally had committed to Butler and then ended up going to ISU, and I think is now transferring again.
Cooper Neese.
Yeah, from Cloverdale. And then another guy that you just mentioned.
Alan Henderson.
No.
Henderson's.
Earlier today with Andy that you just mentioned when you were holding up the Dr. J card.
Oh, Billy Shepard.
Billy Shepard's 10.
Where is Henderson? Henderson's
12.
Okay, who's 11?
Jalen Moore from Cloverdale, 2018. Delray Brooks is in the top 15. James Blackman Jr. is 13th. I don't think anybody else from your era is over here, Jake. I'm looking down here.
Where's Glenn Robinson?
Glenn Robinson is not in the picture that I'm seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Kyle Macy and Alford and McGinnis and Eric Gordon.
Well, but James Blackman Sr.'s got to be up there. He's got to be in the top 30.
Yeah, I'm not seeing James Blackman Sr.
Is Greg?
Are we good for Greg? We have to get Greg's mic on to include that on there. I see. There we go. So somebody from this year?
So there is a player who could jump to 2 as of tomorrow.
Oh, the kid from
Luke
Blackford.
Brown is currently 5th. They only update kind of at the end of last year.
Oh, gotcha.
So
okay.
Luke Brown's sitting at 29.77. He plays Blackhawk Christian tomorrow. It is possible.
So if he's
could
at
get
29.77,
Yep.
hang on, that means that he is 156 away. No, 157 away from Bailey, right?
Correct. And the most he would play would be 2 games. And again, their opponent tomorrow in Blackhawk Christian is favored to beat them, if you will.
Since Barnheiser and Jeff lost, is it now Luke Brown that's Mr. Basketball?
I think it's between Luke Brown and then the 2 Purdue commits whose teams could potentially win a state championship, Trey Kaufman-Wren and Caleb
Blackhawk
First.
Christian,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Would you like me to sit down so I could be on camera?
Yeah, that's right. So,
Okay.
so Trey's at Silver Creek, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other kid. Yeah, but those are 2 top – I think last time I checked, they were top 50 national recruits that Painter has coming in to add to this team. And, I mean,
I'm telling you,
you're going to have some attrition. I would assume that somebody ends up going into the transfer portal from Purdue, but whatever. I mean, the core group that you would expect to return is next year.
Where does Al Durham end up? I mean, he has a year of eligibility.
Yeah.
He's announced he's going to transfer. The guy that talking about the transfer portal, early word that I've heard, depending on who the head coach becomes, is that Lander would stay in Bloomington and will not transfer out.
Well, depending on the coach, or he's going to stay no matter what.
Well, I mean, if Tony Bennett comes to Indiana, Christian Lander's probably gone, right? Because he's a tempo guy, and I never understood this year why Indiana didn't. Christian Lander is a guy that his MO is that he plays at a furious pace and can play at a furious pace, and he felt bottled in the system they ran this year, and there were other schools that would have taken Christian Lander gladly, but told him that he needed to stay for another year before he could come, and he wanted to get into college immediately, and so therefore that's why he went to Indiana. But my understanding is, as of right now, at least from people in Evansville, is that he would lean towards returning to Indiana, so long as it was not a Tony Bennett style offense coming in.
Yeah, you don't want to play. Archie Ball was really a watered-down version of what Tony Bennett does.
Right.
It's very hard to do what Tony Bennett's Virginia teams do, and the fact that people even try to copy that, maybe that was Archie's biggest failing all along. But
what is Al Durham's hometown?
He's from Georgia, I think.
Georgia, I don't know exact hometown, but a Georgia kid, yeah.
So he'll end up where? I'll say he goes to Tulane and plays for Ron Hunter. There's my guess.
Not sure Ron has all but many ties back here at this point from a recruiting standpoint.
I could see him. Right. He's from Lilburn, Georgia. I could see him going to a prominent program, but just deciding to take a lesser role. Because ideally, look, Al Durham seems like a really nice kid, and he gave 4 very difficult years to Indiana, and I appreciate all of that. But I think we said it on the show. If you're relying on Al Durham to be like your second best or third best player, then you're not a good team. And that's really kind of what happened here. I mean, Al Durham is a guy that should probably come off the bench or be like the 5th guy out of your starting 5. And I think he can go to maybe a more prominent program and do that.
Greg, you've got on a Texas A&M pullover. I want to know why.
Because a great member of our staff on the ISC Sports Network, Lance Scheib, his son is on the football operations staff at Texas A&M.
Really?
Absolutely.
I didn't know
so
that.
he's 1 year removed from his days at Purdue University.
doing something similar for Jeff Brom. Now he's on Jimbo Fisher's staff down there, so hence the Texas A&M swag that I'm wearing. Already had an Alabama guy this morning and a Texas guy today approach me inquisitively as to why I'm wearing Texas A&M gear.
Well, and a Clemson guy then, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Purdue. If you see somebody wearing Purdue gear, for the most part, there is that's not random.
Correct.
Like somebody could just randomly put on a Michigan or an Ohio State thing. If somebody's wearing something A&M, there's got to be some story behind it.
Greg, I want to know, how deep a dive did you do on my baseball cards before you told me they're all junk?
Again, I think you're lumping him in with Darren Ravel. I said I think it's more sentimental value, but clearly I was wrong.
Yeah, at least we know off of 2 cards here there was $500 worth.
Yes,
right?
more than that.
Before you leave, you should probably pick up some like plastic cases and get these out of the sleeves. Don't preserve them very well. You should probably get some of the hardcover, like what he had his Jordans in, for some of those cards. Like if you're just going to stick these in your mom's basement, they're just going to continue to discolor and
I was a little nervous
fade.
as to how you were sliding the Bob Gibson card back in
and
there
just
earlier.
tossing them.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
You're going to damage,
You're not
the
even
value
really
of the
supposed to
cards.
use the oils of your fingers on the cards because those can seep into the cardboard and create discoloration.
They sat in bubble gum sugar forever.
Look, I know, because unfortunately, and we
where
brought this up on the show.
Where have your fingers been?
Look, I know what you
Does
make.
the hair on your hands protect the oils?
Because I saw
too
your W-2 from what Indy Card pays you. So I know you have a lot of disposable income, but that doesn't mean that you can just be all willy-nilly about this stuff that actually does have real value. Except this set. 88 Donruss isn't worth anything.
At all?
No.
None?
No.
How do you know?
Because it's
what about
worthless. A lot of those late 80s sets
What about my
aren't worth
Topps
anything.
Kevin Elster Future Stars card?
Yeah. That and the Greg Jeffries did not end up increasing in value.
Can I play the role of Jake Query here briefly?
Sure.
Do you know the movie that Kevin Elster appeared in? Or Elster, not Elsner.
It's not like Major League or something baseball related.
Was it as himself?
No, but it was a baseball movie.
Okay, I will go with, so that card looks like it's from the late, first guess I'll go with Major League.
No, later.
League of Their Own.
Later.
Ooh. The one with, hold on.
This movie has the value of about an 88
The one with the Wesley Snipes.
Well, he was in Major League.
No, but he was in another one. Wasn't he?
Omar Epps
played
Who's the one that Al Pacino was in? There's one about like a crazy fan that goes after
right.
baseball.
Where Wesley Snipes played for the Giants.
Hold on,
less recent than that?
Oh, Little Big
That's the
Leagues.
answer. That is correct.
Oh, were the kids the manager
Yes.
of the Twins?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
That was a really
what's the movie I'm thinking of
cheeseball
with Wesley
movie.
Snipes before he was
I think it's called The Fan, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't pay any taxes on that.
He didn't pay any taxes on a lot of things, apparently.
My next guess was going to be Rookie of the Year with that Henry Rowengarter kid that ended up being an American Pie later on.
What about Angels in the Outfield?
That was another cheeseball one.
I think Angels in the Outfield was the American Pie kid, wasn't it?
No.
That's Rookie of the Year. He was Henry
Rookie of the Year
Rowengartner.
was the American Pie kid.
What
Angels
about
in the Outfield was Third Rock from the Sun, 10 Things I Hate About You kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about The Rookie? That was about the fellow
Brendan Fraser?
No, The Rookie was
That's Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, yeah.
What was Brendan
he's
Fraser?
the non-crazy Quaid,
the Phenom or Perfect? Or?
He was Steve Montana playing for the New York Yankees.
Yeah. Didn't he throw like a 27? I think he threw a perfect game, but all like 3 strikes for every batter. All these sports movies are so dumb.
Man, we're
Can we
nerds.
just say that? I mean, I like sports, but sports movies are really stupid.
I can't believe that you don't like the sleeves I have these in. They've been this way forever.
We're trying to make you money, man.
I'm probably not going to sell them, though. That's the thing.
Well, you've got some iconic sets in there, like 84 Topps, and I remember Mattingly's Rookie was, I think, 82 that was in there. And then you've got some stuff that's just junk too, but
what's junk?
But
I'd like to know.
You should really take out some of those and put those in legit protective sleeves. Jake.
Is my Mariners Rupert Jones rookie card not valuable? What about my Johnny Bench 83 All-Star?
I couldn't believe, Greg. I was blown away with the amount of people that, obviously a lot of people were coming in, of course, to see this show and to say hi to us after 14 months, but the amount of people in the hour and a half, 2 hours I was here before the show, in and out, buying, selling, trading, whatever else to kind of check out the shop
Willie McGee rookie. What are we looking at for a Willie McGee rookie?
It depends on where you are. If you try
Would
to sell that,
would you like me to bring the actual expert back in to give you a proper
we'll do it after
response?
the show here.
if you try to sell that in Kirkwood, Missouri, you could probably make 5 times what it's actually worth.
I saw him play for the Louisville Redbirds before he made the jump.
What about a Henry Aaron play baseball scratch off?
Depends on how much underneath the scratch off is worth.
By the way, who would be the Indianapolis Willie McGee. Like a guy that no one outside of Indianapolis would know is as beloved as he is here.
Gary Brackett.
Yeah.
Razor
Shines is a great one.
Call.
But I feel like Razor Shines is almost too much of a deep cut. Like I'm talking about somebody that, Willie McGee still was like an all-star level player.
Well, okay. For a long time, I would have said for the Pacers.
Bob Sanders?
Jeff Foster. Bob Sanders is a good one.
Too short of a window, though? I mean, McGee was there forever, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say because you're right. In St. Louis, Willie McGee is totally beloved. He is among the most beloved.
I think the Sanders is a great comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you could argue that Sanders was the second most popular Colt at one time.
People outside of Indianapolis would know a Bob Sanders. Like when they think of that,
people outside of St. Louis know who Willie McGee is too, though. I mean, he was a starting center fielder on a World Series champion team in '82 as a rookie.
I just don't know if they know how beloved he is, though.
Yeah,
in the city.
I would say this, with all due respect.
It's okay. You live there, not us.
Having worked and covered there, Willie McGee is far more beloved in St. Louis than Bob Sanders is here. In terms of their lore and what they meant as players, you might be right. But like Willie McGee is beloved in St. Louis to the level of darn near a Reggie Miller in Indianapolis. I mean, it's that high.
That's fair.
Which is kind of, but he's not – anybody outside of Indianapolis would know that Reggie Miller is beloved in Indianapolis. I think people would be surprised to know the level that Willie McGee was. More than Ozzie Smith.
Really?
Yes. That's what I mean. Like, he is that high up.
Like second only to Stan the Man?
Very high.
Wow.
Lou Brock is up there.
Like Mount Rushmore St. Louis athletes?
Shine Dice is up there. Yeah.
I hate Mount Rushmore, but
why? It's wonderful. Have you been to it?
It's so corny.
Oh, it's
phenomenal.
I've
never been there.
I had a girl when we were on a tour of Mount Rushmore. My buddies and I took the guided tour only because there was a hot girl and we wanted to be around her. So we paid for the tour, and she was in the tour. And then at the end, they asked for questions, and she asked if it was a natural phenomenon.
Yes, actually, this was many years of acid rain erosion.
I wonder if this
that
card
created Teddy Roosevelt's glasses.
Now, this is a little wrinkled, but this is just a cool-looking card. The Play Baseball scratch-off with Hank Aaron.
Yeah, a little wrinkled. See, that's
I'm not sure if there's ever much in the way of
protected.
value when something's perforated on one side.
Yeah. Looks like you took it out of a magazine or something.
Well, that's what it is.
From
I have
like
an uncut sheet that has Mark McGuire's Olympic card on it. Is that worth anything?
Well, it's not worth as much anymore. But if you get a PSA graded, if it's uncut, then they can probably cut it for you, and it'll probably
there's
grade
a
out
Mark
as a 9 or
McGuire
10.
card right behind there for $200. Will we get it out for you?
Is it the Olympic card?
Here, I'm going to go off. I'm going to go off headset. I'll get it for you.
And that was a big one. Summer '98, I was still collecting, and everybody wanted that. And that McGuire in the 1990 Sammy Sosa Leaf card was a big deal.
Sammy Sosa Leaf
and
card?
that's not really worth.
What about Tim Raines?
Well, Leaf was a brand of cards.
What about Tim Raines' Future Stars?
He's a Hall of Famer.
This is scintillating for me to look through my old baseball cards.
Well, it's giving me a little bit of anxiety because there actually is some value in there, and yet you're just like, getting your paws all over.
Willie Stargell, this Willie Stargell card's nice.
And it's in like the really weak sheets, plastic sheets that you have there. You need to
Derek, not all of us were hustlers back then, Yeah, that's the one. I've got an uncut of that.
It's really cool. And there's a COA on it, too.
COA?
Certificate of Authenticity for the autograph.
Now, let me tell you something, just in case anybody's wondering. That's a fella before steroids, right?
We never proved that he did anything.
He admitted it. He admitted it.
No, he was coerced into admitting that. That was all legitimate. There was nothing wrong with that.
Okay, he weighed 400 pounds.
When Sean Green started launching 58 home runs, that was, whatever.
Did you hear
Brett Boone had that one? Remember Brett Boone had that one season where he hit 45 homers? You're like, seriously, Brett Boone?
Did you hear about Sean Bradley?
I did. Yeah, it's tragic. I'm glad he's still alive.
Former NBA lottery pick, was involved, hit by a car while on his bike and is paralyzed.
What made you think of Sean Bradley while we're
Sean
talking about
Green,
PEDs?
and I thought of Sean Bradley.
Okay. Well, it's
now. What
sad
about
to me that happened
football
to him.
cards? Are they worth anything? I got all kinds of football cards here.
Yeah, for sure. They actually the case of at Indy Card Exchange with football cards is 2 cases over.
Eddie Payton.
Look in there.
I got an Eddie Payton. I got a Dickerson rookie. Is that worth anything?
Yeah, probably.
You think so?
Again, Jake, the name of the game is you got to get all that stuff graded.
Raymond Butler. There was a year where it appears as though the NFL must not have given licensing. You probably can't get this. To teams to have their logos on Topps cards. So all of the Colts players and Buccaneers, all these cards in this one year, all the players have just plain white helmets.
Is this pre-Indy Colts? Or is this Baltimore Colts? Or are these
These are, well, I had
this is 84 set or 85.
Like Raymond Butler, so that's got to be the first year. There's Curtis Dickey.
Yeah, there's
Ed
the Buccaneers and the
Simonini.
creamsicles.
Like,
Those
you
are
probably
sharp.
can't tell here if I hold that up. I don't know if you can zoom in enough. But if you look at Ricky Williams, Doug Williams, you can see it's just plain. The helmet is just plain, so there's no logo on it. Now, is there a reason for that? Do we know this?
We've only got like 2 minutes
Andy, real quick,
left, but we want to get some
football
valuation
cards
on some
worth
of this.
anything?
Elway, Marino.
I think
all
we
those
have
guys.
to.
Dickerson? Is Dickerson worth
headset?
anything?
Dickerson is a
There we
little value. Maybe like 2 milkshakes.
Why do all the players have just plain white helmets? Did they not have authorization to, like I have an Ahmad Rashad, he's just wearing a purple
Would they have
helmet.
airbrushed that out?
It was a
maybe?
licensing agreement
Yeah.
situation. Yeah, it's same way back in basketball.
Does
With
that
like
make it worth any more?
1972 Topps Wilt Chamberlain. I don't know if you guys ever see that card, but
No.
Wilt had to turn his jersey around backwards, so it says Chamberlain across the front of his chest
Oh,
instead of
nice.
Lakers. It's such a fun
Never
card,
knew
right?
that.
How about Walter Payton? Worth anything?
His rookie card is, yeah.
That's not his rookie.
What would be the holy grail football card wise, Andy?
Well, right now, Tom Brady,
Yeah.
for sure. If we're going back in the old days, Jim Brown's rookie card's huge. 1958 Topps, Johnny Unitas, Bart Starr. You go back even further, you're starting to look at like
Here's a Payton
Jim
rookie
Thorpe,
card.
the
sure.
early
Yeah.
Jim Thorpe type stuff. But, the Tom Brady cards have just taken over the football market.
Well, this Payton rookie card.
That is Peyton's rookie card.
Okay. Now I have an All-Pro Payton from fairly early in his career. Is that a milkshake? Just a milkshake?
That's a couple, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, you're holding Peyton's rookie card?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
let me see it. I've never
There
seen
you go.
that one. That's sharp.
It is a good-looking card.
Yeah, so, you can see all those big ones I have to get graded because customers want to know what the true market value based on condition is.
And 6.5's got to be pretty good for a 1976 card,
It
right?
is. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, a 10 of that's selling for 6 figures.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy
Incredible.
So I need to find if one of these is John Elway's rookie.
stuff. Elway's 84 Topps. Yeah, Elway and Marino are the 2 big rookies that year.
Let's see.
Got to have them. I'm sure you had everybody else that you didn't even realize you had.
84 Tops? What's the Elway
Just a
84
Walter
Tops
Payton.
worth?
All you've got is Ken O'Brien.
Ken O'Brien. You
Is
have
that,
one?
is that an Elway 84 Tops?
That is the rookie card, yes.
What's that worth?
About a $50 to $75 card.
Okay,
I can
well,
tell the
the
centering
centering's-
looks pretty
Yeah,
Yeah,
where's-
awful.
centering's rough.
Just out of curiosity, the centering's rough, you said?
It's rough. You can see it's pushed over way to the right.
Okay, well, did you ever watch the way Elway walked? I mean, his feet were kind of like that.
Andy, can you help him out on his way out? Can we get some like legitimate cases for some of these? Some
I'm
of these
gonna help
cards
him out.
actually
Actually,
are
you know what?
worth something.
If somebody can bring over
and
a big...
Andy's got them all over here. They're like $1. Please, you're giving me
Does
anxiety.
anybody
Buy
have a
some
really...
of those.
Do you have a big pipe? 'Cause that-
I did in college, but
Okay, well-
it broke.
if you can get a big enough one, I'd like for somebody to put all these cards in a pipe for Greg to smoke, since he said they're all junk.
Ray,
Okay.
Ray,
Yeah.
did he ever tell you a story about the first time he came in? He came into the shop and brought in like a little stack of 86 Fleer cards. Like, hey, I got some stuff. Isaiah Thomas was sitting right on top. I'll never forget it. I crushed his dreams worse than you could possibly
boy.
imagine.
He got a milkshake.
Maybe. I think we even turned him down, I think, at the time. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
How
Not
it
even.
goes.
Couldn't even
How
go
it
to
goes.
Culver's over there.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having us out here
Pleasure,
at Indy
guys.
Card
Really
Exchange.
appreciate
it.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you so
Very
much.
much appreciated.
IndyCardExchange.com, Ball Card Exchange on Instagram as well. Indy Card Exchange on Facebook. Also, you can check us out, of course, ISC Sports Network.
We're back at it next week,
Yep,
right?
ISCSportsNetwork.com. Tuesday, our usual spot, and then the next week it'll be Wednesday because we're pushing back with the NCAA Tournament games being delayed this year with
Gotcha.
the COVID stuff.
Okay.
But thanks to everybody
So
here at
where
Indy
do-
Card
where do I
Exchange.
need to be next?
Back in studio.
I'm vaccinated now. You know,
Back
so
in
we can-
studio
okay.
Tuesday. We usually tape Monday. We're taping Tuesday. I could do all of this
You
via
sure?
text message, Jake. We're still actually live on Comcast right now. So
So you're going to let me know?
Yes, I will
Okay.
let you
Do I have
know.
to unblock
I'm
your
basically
number?
your handler. So we'll take care of
aware.
that. We'll see you
Okay.
next time on ISC Sports Network, guys. Take care.
Thanks for watching.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.